Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don, I'll move your consent agenda.
Let the record show everybody is present. A motion to move the consent agenda. Supervisor Wickman, thank you. Seconded by Supervisor Shea, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, next item up is Jason Slack, Director of Building and Ground, discussion and/or decision to approve change order 030, plaster above jail elevator on second floor. Jason?
This change order is for $471.24, and it is just to finish the wall where the jail elevator is over there in the B wing. So it goes up to where the ceiling height's gonna be.
That's this elevator right outside here, right?
Yes.
Did they get it, I guess, figured out if that thing's not gonna stop on this floor?
We can make it not stop on certain floors also, that's just a programming deal.
Okay.
The whole idea though, that elevator is actually on the generator and it's the only one. So, for egress, if we're trying to get somebody handicapped out in a power loss situation, then we would use that elevator.
Okay.
Jason, was there a change order that created this one?
I don't believe so.
How did this get missed in the,
It was above the ceiling, before we started the project. They raised the ceiling height, and that's why the wall finish doesn't go up that high.
Let me see this picture.
Why is the need for fire safety?
Now, basically for aesthetics.
is that your recommendation, Jason?
It is.
I'll move that for you, Scott.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Wickman.
I'll second it.
Second by Supervisor Shea. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, the next one up is David, CIO, discussion and/or decision on permission to pursue naming the new shared conference rooms in the B wing.
Good morning.
Morning, David.
Just a quick and painless thing. The furniture committee is gathering furniture, clothes, and things of that nature, and we thought as a committee we should have names for these rooms, and we wanted to get your permission to pursue naming them. We would probably do some sort of contest with the employees. People would submit ideas or whatever, and then the committee would select the room names from the group or from the list. So I'm just looking for your permission to pursue that.
How many rooms are we talking about, David?
We're talking about 3 rooms. There's a little 4-person conference room. There's a multi-purpose room that can hold, I think, 18 plus. And then there's a large conference room up on this floor as well. So instead of having them named room 139, we thought it'd be better to have an actual colorful
I
name.
really don't have a problem with it.
So I think you should maintain the room number and then, just talk
For
about.
fire,
Sure.
Yeah, for that purpose, but it's just like, when the city renamed the street up there for the Thomas Hauser, where they kept the name the same for the road, but then they put like the blue sign that had the veteran's name on it.
Right.
So same kind of deal here. I think if you're gonna do that, just be still room 139, just for those purposes, probably more.
For location purposes, right.
Kind of things, and then, I don't know, are you planning to do this as like a dedication memorial kind of thing, or you just want it to be?
No, the group just thought it would be fun to have something more fun, if you will.
So is the responsibility for reserving the rooms gonna lay with, Andrew out here?
The intent is that the rooms would be reserved via the intranet site, so they wouldn't be owned by anybody. They'd be self-managed. People would go into the intranet, reserve the room, and then the calendar will be visible both on the intranet, and there will be a little screen in front of each room that shows if it's available or not.
Okay, and are those rooms, card keyed then?
I don't know if they are.
They are, yep,
They are,
yes.
okay. So, everybody's gonna have access to
We will be able to customize the schedule for those doors as much as needed.
okay. How much, I'm just asking, how much, whatever technology and stuff is in there? It's because we had a phone walk off somewhere not too long ago, but, you know, are they gonna be equipped with phones and all the technology and such?
They will all have the same thing that's in your little conference room, that device.
Okay,
And then the large multipurpose room will have something similar to what's in here with cameras and other devices of similar nature.
It's like church sitting front.
can we get like just a regular phone too? In like, especially in this one in here, if you wanted, just make, go in here and have some private phone call.
A phone certainly could be added, if that's something you need, but the device has a phone on it.
Right, but then your
It
speaker,
does have a
it's
speaker on it, you're right, it's a constant call.
not very confidential if you're
Right,
there, because there used to be a phone in
right, that's something we could look into.
there. Okay,
I suppose you guys can get the little cable locks or something in there too, right? For
Say that again?
those little locking devices you know, screw to the table or whatever. I mean, if someone wants to steal it, they're gonna steal it, but at least if nothing else, it might.
Well, we should have cameras, I would think, in the near area, so we could see who is walking out with something, but,
Ideally, there's gonna be a camera on every door that has access control.
So, I mean, I don't know, I guess we don't need to go down that path. I guess I'm just, the thing I'm concerned about with naming, I mean, there's gotta be a level of appropriateness for names. You know, I don't want some random,
well, you want them to bring them back?
yeah, I think that'd be
Okay.
better. I mean, have your contest and bring them back, that might be better.
Okay,
okay.
I just,
so I need someone to
Yeah.
give them.
I make a motion.
Okay.
Go ahead. You made a motion. And
For
then,
allowing them to name the rooms
and bring
with the
them back.
numbers being left on them.
Right,
too,
bringing it back.
For fire protection.
And bring
Bringing
those
the
back.
Bring them back to us.
And delivery too. Sometimes the delivery guys
To
don't
the
know where,
conference rooms.
well, they'll be delivering the equipment, furniture.
Okay.
You know, they won't know where the shade room is, they'll know where 239 is.
yeah, no, that's,
So we got a motion,
I'll second it.
okay, and second by Schultz for the discussion.
Yeah, Jason. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said they're all gonna have card access.
Yeah.
We can shut that off too, right?
Yeah, it can be customized by people or by a schedule, however, we see fit to do it.
Okay. And then, David, are you looking for separate names for all of them? Is that what
Yeah,
you're-
we would probably have 3 different names, I would think,
Three
yes.
rooms.
Like Zoo 1, Zoo 2, and Zoo 3?
Or,
Never mind.
Richmond Water, no, I'm not gonna get that.
Okay, I'm good, Scott.
Yeah, well, no, and your comment about the door locks. So, do most of the courthouse operate whatever around, I don't know what, at 6 in the morning, they unlock, or
Yep.
5 o'clock at night, they lock?
Yep.
And then there's other on and off during certain periods of the day?
Right, so, just take the east and west main lobby doors, for example, those unlock, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, excluding holidays, so the holidays are all pre-programmed in there, so they don't unlock, during holiday.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things you can drill in to customize that access.
Who's allowed to take part in this contest, David? Everybody?
We
Anybody?
probably would open up to the employees, yep. It'd be something we'd see on the intranet, I imagine.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you.
David.
Thanks, David.
Okay, Brittany, is Courtney supposed to be here too?
It's me. It's here.
Oh, you're there,
Morning.
okay. Sorry. Lockman Company, presentation of annual aggregate report is, okay, Jana is here.
And Mr. Hauser, is the phone line on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anybody listening on the phone?
Our counterparts from Hearing Aid Code were gonna be on the phone or YouTubing it, so they're probably watching it on YouTube.
Okay.
May I
Yes,
approach
yeah.
and hand out, please?
Thank you.
There we go. And I had fancy booklets made, but apparently I can't remember how to print appropriately, so
Okay,
they're
thank you.
not as fancy as I had hoped. But
Thank you.
information is the same nonetheless.
Okay.
Would you like one, madam? Thank you. And Gianna, I guess, for you too, of course. Thank you. Okay, I'll try to make this as quick and painless as possible. So my name is Courtney Garmong, and I manage the Potawatomi County Employee Wellness Program. I work very closely with Jana, and we've had another good year. So I'm really excited about the results that we've seen, and we'll just talk a little bit about some recommendations that we have, and answer any questions that you guys have, of course. So you can follow along with me. Like I said, they're printed a little bit wonky, so I apologize for that. This year we did have starting on page 2, the aggregate report demographics. I apologize, it's not up for everybody, but the aggregate report demographics with our participants, we did have a slight decrease in participation this year by about 8%, but I would say we've been seeing that kind of across the board with all of our wellness programs. I think there was obviously some frantic beings in the beginning of 2020 where they weren't going in to get their biometric exams. Obviously, some of the physicians' offices were closed and things. So kind of that aftermath of 2020 spring, we see a little bit of a decrease with the participation just because I think people decided to kind of let this year happen and see what happens and then maybe hopefully pick it up again this year. But not a huge decrease. I would say that the county, in comparison to some of our other wellness groups, has seen a smaller decrease in participation than some of the others, as I said. Age range in box 2, and then I like to skip to box 3 to the screening. So we did have 254 members access the new wellness portal, so that's exciting. I do like to see that number continue to increase as we go year over year, just because even if they're not participating in all of the components of the wellness program, they're still seeking out some of that information, getting familiar with that portal, understanding what is there for them, and then hopefully we'll get them to engage eventually. So that's a good thing to see that many people accessing the new portal. As I said, 233 people completed the health screening and the health risk assessment. Of those 233 people, 75.5% met the 3 out of 5 biometric risk factors. So that's really awesome. We had a really good population that meet those 4 out of 6 benchmarks. And then 91.2% that were required that did not meet the 4 out of 6 that are required to do the coaching with Heather the nurse have started their coaching. So we have really good participation when it comes to those folks that are actually going through with all of the steps and earning that incentive. The participation there is really, really good. So again, a slight decrease on the participation, but then those that did participate are taking it seriously and doing the things that we are asking them to do. On page 4, you'll see some self-reported conditions. Did I skip a page? I did, didn't I? I had mine flipped. Just kidding. Page 3, we have clinical measure risk factors by percentage. Now, since we did switch portals and our data had to change from a legacy system to our new portal system, we're unable to carry over the historical data to the new reporting system. So this year is kind of a benchmark year from an aggregate reporting perspective. Heather can still pull up those historical reports for each member when they're having those individual conversations. But as far as our aggregate reporting goes, we're unable to translate those to the new portal. But we did do it against the national averages, and you guys are looking really good from pretty much every perspective except for that obesity category. Of course, most of the jobs are sedentary jobs, and we see a lot of obesity spiking from 2020 as well. A lot of people having to stay home and not do all the things that they used to do tends to add to the belt line. So obesity is still well above the national average, but as I said, we're doing well and maintaining the other metrics below the national average. So those are good, and next year we'll bring back those historical data results to show how the county's doing year over year. And then the same situation on self-reported conditions by percentage. So again, we're just bumping it up against the national average. These are metrics that were self-reported by each member in their health risk assessment. So actual members that say, yes, I have this, and yes, I have that. The low physical exercise was the only thing that was above national average. Again, that goes hand in hand with that obesity. So we can kind of see, if we wanted to track and trend through this report, we'd see, you know, where the the cause and effect goes, right? We're not getting as much exercise as we should, therefore we're ending up to weigh a little bit more than we should. Slide 5 is all of our participants that participated and where they are in comparison from year over year from a biometric standpoint. So we were able to pull those metrics over. So we do see a sharp decrease in the BMI, so that's good. Even though we're still above the national average, we're moving the needle on that BMI. So most groups are above that national average of obesity. Is just kind of the way that our country is situated at this point. But as you can see, we are decreasing and staying flat well within the normal limits on a lot of those measurements. And I will point out that we lost 9 smokers this year, so that's good. There was 9 people that quit smoking, so that's amazing. And then if you flip the page, oh. Do you have a question? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. I guess that could have sounded really bad. No. We had 9 people quit smoking. That's a better way to say it, isn't it? And then on slide 6, you can see the same participants comparison year over year. So we want to pull those same folks that are participating every year to show kind of what they're doing from their perspective, and those that are coaching as well. So the same participants really kind of stayed flat. You know, they're maintaining, not making huge marks within in the way of improvement. But we did decrease the tobacco users by 47% with those same participants. And if you move to the box on the right on those same coaching participants, 5 of the 8 of those were the coaching participants. So Heather's helping out. She's giving them the resources that they need. And actually in the new portal, we have some smoking cessation e-learning series that they can do in addition to their coaching, and the tobacco cessation modules that Heather supplies for them as well. So definitely seeing the needle move on those tobacco users, which is a huge risk decrease. So those are big wins. And again, those same coaching participants are staying pretty flat with their biometric measurements. We did see a good decrease in cholesterol this year, though. And it's funny because I think that we see each year folks kind of tend to focus on one thing or the other, where we'll see some decrease in BMI one year, and then the next year we'll see that decrease in cholesterol, and then the next year we'll see that decrease in blood pressure. But as long as the other metrics aren't significantly increasing, we call that a win, and things are going well. So we're still heading down the right path when it comes to that overall health improvement. On page 7, when we talk about the Know Your Number Health Risk Assessment risk reporting, Pottawatomie County's average score was 65, which is pretty good, in that borderline high range. 66 is a national average, so you guys are pretty level with the national average when it comes to health risk assessment risk reporting. And that line graph down at the bottom is kind of where it shows where we can make that biggest difference, where most of the folks lie within that above normal, borderline high category, and that's what we would call, our fancy word for it is impactable. So people that are at a place in either their disease process or their health status that they can maybe pivot and make different choices and have a better outcome, as opposed to perhaps people maybe having, terminal disease or cancers and different things like that, they're not as impactful, right? Because they kind of have a path that they'll be going on. So these people are what we would consider highly impactable, and those are the people that we want to target to make sure that they're conversing with a nurse and understanding their overall health status and making those improvements to help decrease their risk. We can go to page 9. This just goes a little bit through the biometrics, just regarding weight and body mass index. One thing I will say from the new portal that I really appreciate is that line graph on the right side that talks about pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. So that's something that we have built into the health risk assessment and the way that they answer their questions. We can see kind of where they are on the spectrum of maybe pre-contemplation of, do I really want to quit smoking? Do I really want to start an exercise routine? Should I start losing weight? To that point of preparing to do it, creating the action, executing the action, and then going into the maintenance phase. So again, being on that above normal borderline high aspect of the health score, we can see that a large portion of the group is in the contemplation preparation phase of their obesity thought process, right? So they're thinking about it. They're aware of the size of the belt that they're wearing. They're aware of the food that they're eating, and now they need to start deciding, okay, what am I going to do about it in order to decrease my risk and improve my quality of life? So those are really good metrics for us, and what that can tell us is that Heather can change the way that she provides resources or the way that she talks to folks in order to get them kind of over that hump of contemplation and into that action stage. With the obesity, it stayed pretty flat from last year. 81.6% of folks were above normal weight last year, and this year was 82%. So again, we're seeing that obesity really above that national average, and hopefully we can make some moves in decreasing that risk there. Physical activity, so this has decreased, and again, we've seen that across the board over the 2020 year, just with gyms closing, everybody was just kind of stuck at home to their own devices. If they weren't aware of what to do at home outside of simple calisthenics, they probably weren't doing much. There's also the mental health aspect where folks were really not very motivated to start exercising or doing anything as they were confined to their space. So again, just having those conversations with folks, letting them know how important it is, providing those resources. YouTube is an excellent resource if you're at home. There's a million trainers out there trying to get famous that'll post all kinds of stuff out there. So, turn it on your smart TV. So we try to give some good, actually useful resources to folks that are maybe stuck at home and their gym is closed to continue that exercise. But as I said, we saw a little slight decrease in 2020 with the COVID situations. But again, plays hand in hand with that obesity and got to stay on top of it, right? Diet and nutrition. So quite a few people reported having a high-fat diet, 61%. And then 36% eat the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables. And again, this is Heather's opportunity to really educate those folks on what healthy fats are, what unhealthy fats are, because some people may be eating a high-fat, like keto-type diet, and then she can confirm, yeah, that's great, these are some things that you can do. But then we want to make sure that if they're not consuming a healthy fat diet, that they start to learn about it. And then the same thing with the fruits and vegetables. And again, the readiness to change on here as well. So quite a few people in that pre-contemplation preparation action stage. So again, having Heather there as a resource and accountability can really help with those people to move into that action and maintenance stage. Next up is blood pressure. So we did see a decrease in blood pressure, which is awesome. 4% decrease in folks with high blood pressure and a 5% decrease in folks with elevated blood pressure. So again, getting those under control, whether it be pharmaceutically or through lifestyle changes, seeing a decrease in that blood pressure is definitely a plus, especially concurrently with a decrease in high cholesterol, because both of those are a big stroke risk and cardiovascular risk as well. So when we see double decreases, those are always good signs. And then with the tobacco use, as I said, we had quite a few people quit, and as you can see, the contemplation, preparation, action line graph looks a little bit different on the tobacco page. Those that are in the maintenance stage are those likely that have quit, and those that are kind of flat on that contemplation are those users that are like, nope, not going to do it, not ready to quit, not moving forward. But we'll keep talking to them, right? We'll keep talking to them, keep providing those resources, and giving them some sort of incentive to hopefully quit using tobacco. And cholesterol as well.
That's not just smokers, that's all tobacco, right?
Right, and
Is that-
including e-cigarettes and
Okay.
vapes. Yep.
Good.
anything with nicotine products.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, when those vapes came out, we had a lot of conversations about those. Did a lot of research, and neither one is good, so don't do it. As far as cholesterol goes, so we did have an increase in those people that had a history of high blood pressure, or cholesterol, excuse me, but we have had a decrease in the prevalence of the lab results coming back outside of normal range. So we did have a decrease in those LDLs, an increase in the HDLs, which is good. So like I said, with that blood pressure and those cholesterol numbers going down concurrently, that's definitely a good thing to see when it comes to risk perspective. And then diabetes, I usually save my two favorite slides for last. So diabetes is one of my favorite slides just because this really goes to show how important those biometric screenings are. Without doing that blood draw, we would never be able to see the information that we can see. And as you can see on this diabetes slide, there's lots of information on here. But if you go down to the bottom of the page with that small table about previously diagnosed and not previously diagnosed, we found about 42 people not previously diagnosed that had elevated blood sugar or hemoglobin A1C. So that's pretty telling, I think, for folks if they're not getting in, not understanding, the signs and symptoms that they may be having. Those folks that are above 25 or 125 on that glucose range typically start talking about medication and getting on the path to diabetes care, chronic condition management. So those folks are the impactable folks that we're able to say, hey, your blood sugar is coming back as this, and if you keep on your road, you're going to end up diabetic, potential comorbidities, maybe lose a toe. If we turn the corner and go a different way, we could reverse that diabetes, actually bring you back to normal blood sugar and have you living a healthier lifestyle and keeping all 10 of your toes, right? So it really is a good indicator for us to bring that conversation really down to the ground for these people to understand this is what's going on inside your body. These are the things that you need to do to help yourself either improve or prevent this from happening in order to live a quality, long life, right? One thing I like to say is we don't spend our whole lives saving for retirement to spend it on nursing home fees, right? We want to have a good time. Stress and depression. So this is my other favorite slide, especially in the light of 2020 and COVID and things happening. I think Heather's found a lot of ways to help folks cope with some of the stress that's come along with COVID-19 and how it all happened. But as you can see, we separate by gender, so males and females, as far as their stress level goes. Females are a little bit higher than the males when it comes to stress overall. But you have a pretty significant percentage of males with high stress rates as well. So again, this isn't to say that, Pot County is doing something wrong or, everybody's just stressed out to the max here. What it's telling us is, yes, we have some stress in the employee population, which is going to be obvious. But how do we handle it and how do we help to provide those appropriate resources for the stress? And I think what this says to us is we have a pretty good group of male and females that are stressed out, and so we need to find different resources, right, for them. I think a lot of times we think of women, and I'll be really stereotypical at this point, but like, oh, have a glass of wine, take a bath, chill out. But that may not be what I tell my dad at the end of a stressful day, right? Like, oh, Dad, just run yourself a bubble bath, have a nice glass of wine, which you may enjoy, but it may not be the same, right? He's not going to look at it the same way. So again, in thinking of different ways that we're offering stress relief and stress resources to the employee populations, we want to take that into consideration that each group is able to take advantage of some of those resources without kind of siloing it to one group or one gender, if you will. And that concludes kind of the meat and potatoes. There are some recommendations in here, and really it's just continuing with what you guys are doing. Your wellness program is very robust. We appreciate having you guys as clients. You're wonderful. Heather raves about all of the employees. She has great relationships, and that we can stay year over year and create those relationships and continue that health maintenance overall. Leveraging the wellness portal is just another recommendation. And we can talk with Janice about some of that stuff, posting some things on the intranet and things, just reminding them that the portal is out there because it is much more interactive than it has been in the past. And then we have been developing communication calendars since we do have this portal up, and we have some fun ways that we can send emails out. We've been developing some communication calendars to keep wellness top of mind and kind of have those little pop-ups every once in a while to say, hey, don't forget about wellness. Hey, don't forget if you have a nurse here that's available for you if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that. So those are things that we can work through with Jana and how we'll figure out to strategize for next year. But as I said, overall, you guys are doing great. It's always a pleasure servicing you, and I'd love to hear any feedback that you have regarding the report.
On the, if I can, on this last slide on page 16, where it shows the high stress levels of employees, do you know who those employees are?
We would be able to identify them, yes.
Is it your plan to focus on that?
Is it our plan to focus on it? So what Heather does during her individual conversations with the folks is she looks at their health risk assessment and this information pops up for us. And so then she would be having those conversations with those members regarding their specific stress, what levels they have, what they're doing to currently cope with them, and then ways that she would be able to help them to maybe cope a little bit healthier going forward.
Okay.
I have a question. It might be more for Maria, but do you have ideas for some of these wellness activities that our wellness committee can implement, or do they kind of come up with them on their own?
We meet with the wellness committee, so I think
So
I'm
you
kind of
give
a
them
pseudo
ideas
member of
what
that
other
committee.
people are doing, we might be, and I've seen some of those activities like a 5K run, 5K walk. Well, a 70-year-old man with a bad IT band is not going to do that. Are there wellness activities for some of us who it might be a little less stressful on our joints?
Sure. And we can always think of that, and when doing those activities, we
You
can
might
think
get a little
of,
more participation from us.
alternative,
Yeah.
so kind of doing the same thing but lower level.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely talk through that.
And
at
maybe
those
you do,
committee
I
meetings.
just,
Let me get my pencil
Bike trails would help.
bike trail, I'd have to buy a bike. Can I borrow yours?
Yeah.
Well, if I go to page 2, this is our, I assume, is this our total population of Pot County? The middle graph, the age range? Or is it just the people that have signed up with?
I think that's just the participants.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have anybody over 71 signed up. Is
For the
that,
wellness program? Yeah, that would be true. if
is
it
that
was-
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for?
No, that was good for the numbers. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys.
Okay, there was no decision needed to be made on that. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll be through COVID this year, but we don't know at this point the way things have been going, so. Keep the shots coming. Next up, we got Mark Ekman, County-wide Tourism Promotion Committee discussion and or decision to approve funding request for fiscal year 2021-2022. Mark,
Yes,
are you,
appreciate the board's time in considering our budget proposal. Do you have that in front of you? I have extra
I
copies.
think we,
I take copy.
Okay,
okay, it's in our packet here.
I've got a few things to share with you.
Did you want any, the website up on the screen, Mark?
Yeah, if that's possible.
Well, if Candy can do that. Yeah, probably have to tell her what the website is.
It's WATTA.com.
Could you repeat that? What is that? WATTA.com.
some more things to look at when you're done.
Joe?
Okay.
Is it Waterway, Iowa?
Yeah.
IA, yep.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Look better?
Perfect. Yeah. The board has funded the Potawatomi Countywide Tourism Committee for longer than I've actually been in my position. I've been in my job for 6 years. And maybe Melvin or Scott could speak to the length of time. Is it more than 10 years?
I'm guessing 2005, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. So it's been probably close to 15 years.
Okay, very good. I've had the opportunity to be a part of it. Michelle Watke-Franks with Golden Hills RC&D as a committee member. Mark Shoemaker attends many of our meetings, and we have a committee that represents the diversity of the county. Some of the folks weren't able to join us here today, and if they were, it might have just overwhelmed the seating capacity here. But we appreciated the funding that the committee has received from the board in the past. And before I go into the numbers, one of the things I wanted to point out was the website, which hopefully you guys have visited from time to time. It was named Outstanding Website of the Year 2 years ago by the Iowa Tourism Office. And if it looks somewhat familiar, we used the same developer, Neapolitan Labs, as you've used for the county website, as the Conservation Board has used for theirs, along with elections, and then the Convention and Visitors Bureau too. They've provided us with great value. This has really performed well for us as a way of promoting the county. And in terms of return on investment, according to the U.S. Travel Association in 2019, the most recent information we have available, travelers who've come at least 50 miles or farther away spent more than $350 million in Potawatomi County. And being at the intersection of I-29 and 80, that makes some sense. And the fact that we're close to Omaha doesn't hurt anything either. We're certainly going to see a hit when we see the 2020 numbers. Occupancy at Council Bluffs hotels, for instance, dropped at least 20%. And we're all going through this, whether you're a large town or a small town, a small business or a large business, but we're trying to make our way through that. In addition to the website, we also are present digitally on Facebook. One of the sheets that I passed out to you, this one in yellow and gold, you're going to see some stats in terms of what the website traffic is like. And so halfway through fiscal year 21, we have more than half the number of unique visitors that we saw in all of fiscal year 20. You can go down the line to see that visits and page views also are going to be more than half of what we saw in fiscal year 20. So those numbers are going to grow. Facebook is another important means for us to promote the county. We have a strong following there with 6,400 likes or followers on Facebook. And that's another platform for us to use with 6,400 followers. Here we're seeing some other stats. As I was talking with Michelle earlier today. We're seeing engagement in a different way on Facebook because of the fact that the pandemic has really influenced how folks are going online and looking for information. So normally they would be looking for events to go to. Well, we're not having that many events, so we're not able to promote that as much as what we've done in the past. We're still going to soldier through and promote as many different things as we can about Potawatomi County on Facebook. It's just going to look different until we get through the pandemic. In terms of another important way that we promote Potawatomi County beyond digital and more in print form or a traditional means is that we have these brochures that I'm passing around to you right now. There's the Waterway map is one piece. We've got the Stars and Bronze brochure that promotes the Eagles of Honor, the Freedom Rock, the First Responders Plaza. We also are promoting the Water Trail. That's one of the few brochures that we have published, but it's certainly an important amenity that we want to promote. And then because there's so many trails, whether bicycles or automobiles or just walking trails, we have a lot of those. And in fact, a few years ago, we proclaimed that we're the trail capital of Iowa. Potawatomi County is, with everything from the Les Hills National Scenic Byway to the Lincoln Highway, Heritage Byway, I should say. And then, of course, the Mormon Trail, Lewis and Clark Trail, and so many others. And then the last piece I want to share with you is the joint visitor guide that the committee publishes with the Council Bluffs CVB. And this is the 2020 edition. We're right now working on the 2021. And this is a great way of collaborating, sharing the expense, but yet getting the important information out about not just Council Bluffs, but all of Potawatomi County's 14 communities and the rural areas on top of that. That kind of brings me to the spreadsheet in terms of the budget. You're going to see that the expenses are organized around similar categories on the extreme left-hand side. And then you're going to see the activity. And then as you move right, you're going to see the fiscal year 21 numbers. So this is the budget that we're working off of right now. And it shows $12,500 for the placement of either digital or print advertising. Down below that, we have Google AdWords for $6,000. We want to make sure that this website comes up high on the search results, so we invest $6,000, which is a modest amount to do that. We also invest $11,750 in website hosting and development. I kind of make a comparison between web development to the updates your own smartphone receives. You don't see an update on your phone once a year, you see it multiple times a year. In fact, probably once every 2 months. Likewise, we need to update the website so it stays as engaging and as current as it possibly can so that we're delivering information that moves people to not only want to come here, but actually making plans to do so. We have $3,100 for brochure reprints for the pieces that I just showed you, such as this one. Brochure distribution, we work with a company that makes sure that 2 of our Potawatomi County brochures are available throughout the Omaha Metro at hotels when people are coming through looking for something to do. In addition to that, we have the visitor guide. The contribution from the committee is $15,000, which is down from $25,000 so that we can make room to do other activities. And then we have some membership fees that we stay current with, $150 for Western Iowa, $750 for the Iowa Travel Industry Partners, which is a new one, and then $250 for the Iowa Group Travel Association. The remaining expenses are for sponsorships or operations. $1,000 was allocated for the Southwest Iowa Art Tour, which we in fact provided $1,500 for. And then $3,000 for the Omaha Metropolitan Area Tourism Awards, which Justin and Tim have both been a presenter at in previous years. And then our last are the operations postage and stakeholder meetings. If you move to the right then, we've got 2 columns, I'll call them fiscal year 22 option A, fiscal year 22 option B. The option A top line item there is a new program for grants that would be provided to events occurring at 12 out of the 14 communities in Potawatomi County. A grant of up to $500 to promote such things as the sesquicentennial that's going to be occurring at Walnut and other similar activities that are going to draw people from outside the community. This is a brand new program that the committee approved and is working with WIDA to roll out. Erica was the one who recommended it and the committee embraced it, so $6,000 has been allocated in fiscal year 22. Down below, you're going to see a reduction in our advertising so that we can make room for that new program, so it's been lowered to just under $10,000. Google AdWords stays the same. Website hosting and development is reduced slightly there, just over $2,000. And then brochure reprints and distribution remain the same along with the allocation for the visitor guide. And then another new line item is just to simply promote engagement on our Facebook page. We have a great following at 6,400. That's really high for a committee like ours. So that's basically giving out 2 gift cards to county businesses to promote engagement on Facebook so that we've got some folks looking at what we're promoting, hopefully participating in the contest that we do, and then seeing the other content that we promote. The membership dues stay the same, except the Iowa Group Travel Association goes away since it's merging with Iowa Travel Industry Partners. The Southwest Iowa Tour increases that sponsorship to $1,500. the sponsorship to the Omaha Metropolitan Area Tourism Awards decreases by $1,500, and then the operation lines stay the same. Over on B, there's some slight changes. Grant program stays as it is. The print and digital advertising line returns to the fiscal year 21 level. Google AdWords stays the same. Website hosting and development stays the same as option A. The brochure reprints go up just to make sure that we have sufficient copies to distribute, and that distribution line stays the same, as well as the visitor guide. And then engagement on Facebook, that increases by $600, so we're giving away $100 worth of gift cards per contest. Well, those are spread over several contests, but nevertheless, having those there. The membership stay the same, the sponsorship stay the same, and then the operation lines stay the same for a total of $65,000. We really took some time to think about that and talk about that as far as proposing an increase in a very challenging year, and just thought it's probably worth at least proposing to you so that we can help promote recovery the best way we can with all the pandemic hits that local businesses have taken. And we want to mitigate whatever decrease that we're going to see in 2022. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or allow Michelle or Mark or Melvin or Scott to add anything that I missed.
How do you distribute your brochures?
The, in addition to CTM brochure distribution, which has them at virtually all hotels in the metro, we also utilize the Iowa Welcome Center system. There's 4 interstate welcome centers, and then they have partner welcome centers across the state of Iowa. So we take full advantage of distributing throughout all of those. And we also have them at the airport through the relationship that we have with Visit Omaha, and then also at the Old Market Visitor Center, along with the Sarpy County Visitor Center at Warner Park. So we've forged some pretty good working relationships here locally as well as throughout the state of Iowa to do that. Did I miss anything, Michelle?
I don't think so.
Mark?
One of the things I did want to say about the new project that gives mini grants out to the rural communities in Potawatomi County. I mean, this was one of the things that we were discussing, that how do we make those communities feel more connected, engaged with the larger countywide tourism effort. What we know is, $500 for some of these towns to purchase advertising, to print flyers is significant. And, I think we wanted to kind of share some of those opportunities via WIDA, via the Countywide Tourism Committee, to really create better connectivity and support outside the Council Bluffs area and out into the other areas. So it is something new, and there are certainly other funding opportunities through Pot County Community Foundation and other places, but I think that this supports and supplements and complements some of those other resources.
Do you apply for any grants?
Does this committee apply for any grants?
Yeah.
No. I mean, all of the organizations that are involved obviously apply for grants for our projects and operation, but I wouldn't say for this particular committee that itself does that.
I don't think you want to be competing for grant requests that might interfere with some small towns' grant requests. So
Right.
I think it might be better to kind of stay out of that venue and let the small towns do the grant requests. Otherwise, you're going to have redundancy and confusion.
Right.
Mark, this is just part of your overall spending for tourism. What's your total budget?
So this is a budget just for the committee.
Right.
And then there's the budget that we have as the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Good question, catching me off the top of my head. Our budget started when I arrived at $505,000 for the CVB back in fiscal year 2015. That supported 3 staff members. It was on the lower end when we compare ourselves to Dubuque and Waterloo, probably the closest communities in Iowa to Council Bluffs. We have grown that budget by $200,000 or 40%. So we're talking just above $700,000. That all comes from a couple of sources. One, the city of Council Bluffs. Two, the little bit of grant money that we get comes from the state of Iowa, so that's about 55,000, maybe a little bit more. And then I think that kind of ties it all up. We obviously don't receive any dollars from you. We haven't requested any dollars from the board. We've just devoted our attention to being a collaborator with this committee to see what it can do to promote the county overall.
Are any of those funds in that budget used for events in Potawatomi County?
In terms of promoting them?
Yes.
We don't have a grant program like what this one is suggesting with the budget, if that's what you're asking. We try to promote, just to kind of take a step back, when we promote and use our marketing dollars as the Council Bluffs Convention and Visitors Bureau, we're looking at it as trying to promote the entire area, so the city and the county. And so our content on unleashcb.com, you'll notice, and Mark Shoemaker can attest to this being one of our board members, as well as someone that puts on events, we promote everything we promote everything in Potawatomi County. The only two eligibility requirements for having an event listed on the website would be that it's open to the public and that it takes place in the county. We also include all the attractions in the county as well.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No,
I'm good.
I'm, just the conversation around the additional monies. I mean, I do feel that there's value to that in recovery efforts, just considering last year was not exactly the best year for these types of things. I think this next year is going to be a good opportunity to kind of get people back to somewhat of a semi-normal and experience our county in other ways. And I think, personally, I think it'd be better if we consider the additional 5,000.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, motion by Supervisor Schultz and seconded by Supervisor Whitman. Thank you. I guess what I would ask, as being a participant of the promotion committee, that we come back sometime in probably future, I can't remember how that schedule time was, and see how this program is being accepted with the communities and what they used it for, and which communities did it, and that type of thing. And if we need to look at next year doing something, tweaking it or whatever the case may be, but I think, as Supervisor Schultz said, I think, a lot of events in these little communities got either postponed or canceled, and anything that can, I guess, get them back up and get them some additional exposure and keep their main streets moving, and whatever events they have are featured, and doing it, whatever we can to do that. I know that, you do a lot with local Council Bluffs and that, but I think a lot of that feeds over, so I think there's a lot of synergism between the two, so thanks for what you guys are doing. So, any other discussion?
Oh, just to let the committee know that the chairman appointed and the board approved Brian Shea as a member of the committee. So it'll be the two supervisors, Scott and Brian, and all hang around as a Eastern Pot County participant, just to still keep my little finger in the.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, you guys.
Becky, did you get that? That went to 65.
Pardon me?
That
You
went,
get that went to 65.
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah. And that's not, what's that, that wasn't right under, what was that called? It wasn't the same name.
1 second.
Oh, it was marketing and promotion, I think. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Get that trail built. Get that bike trail built.
Yeah, Council Labs has done a pretty good job with the website. Yeah. So that's the CBB and then B too.
Regional marketing.
Regional marketing,
I don't disagree.
Becky, it's under regional marketing, what page are you on?
I'm on page 4 of 11 on the board's budget.
411.
I got it,
Regional
it's already
marketing.
in there, 65.
Yeah, if we can, countywide tourism, if we could, maybe we can't change it, so it is what it is. I'm probably not gonna be correct, on this name. Is it Antonia?
Antonia.
Antonia.
Yes.
Okay, Antonia, I'm not even try,
The last name?
I can do the Smith, but
It's
library
Karpitchka.
director.
It's Karpitchka Smith.
I just, Council Bluffs Library, a discussion on how funding for Council Bluffs Library goes to serve the citizens of Potawatomi County.
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
so permission to approach, so I can give you the annual
Yeah.
report.
Okay, thank you.
This
Thank you.
was compiled by the previous director. She retired in December,
Okay,
so she compiled it, but I can speak to it. So,
okay.
thank you. Yeah. So, as you may or may not know, Council Bluffs Library serves a wide portion of just the whole county. It's not just Council Bluffs. Our mission is to enrich, inform, and empower our community, and we consider the county our community. So if you look in the report, you'll see just lots of numbers, which is just wonderful. We love numbers. So we like to say our materials are our physical materials. So when you see that circulation number of 275,819, that's our physical books. Keep in mind, as with most industries, in March of 2020, we closed our doors, but that did not mean that we closed our collection to individuals. Pretty quickly, we instituted curbside services where individuals could put items on hold. We bring them out to their vehicles. The number of the communities in Potawatomi County are still doing that. A lot of libraries don't have their doors open at this point to individuals coming in. Council Bluffs does. But a lot of individuals are seeing, or a lot of libraries are seeing, the decrease in their physical circulation of materials because people just aren't there to go in and grab the 6 DVDs or go in and grab the materials. So that's something to keep in mind. So all the numbers are a lot lower for physical circulation. That's the bottom line. But I would like to point out some of the numbers on the back because there is a number that's our downloadable circulation. So this is our e-materials. You'll see that that number is 379,391. So significantly higher than our circulation of physical materials. So that is really what we're relying on right now to get out to all individuals of the county. You don't have to come into the library to be able to download books, download different materials as possible. Right now, downloadable books is really what we're providing to the library. You can download music, you can download movies, you can download educational videos. So that is something that to keep in mind when I'm speaking to where the money goes. Just to give everybody an understanding of how money works when it comes to buying materials, e-materials are much, much, much more expensive than physical materials. This is because if you were to go to Amazon and purchase an ebook, it's really cheap, right? And you get that ebook, it's $2, you have the ebook, you download it to your device, you have it forever. Libraries are not allowed to do that. We download a certain number of downloads, or we purchase a certain number of downloads. So the more popular the title, the James Patterson, we pay $35 for one download of that item. we are allowed to download that item, a patron is allowed to download that item, say 20 times. 20 patrons can get that item for $35 for the library. And then they say you have to buy it from us again. So then we buy that item again, we buy another $35 item, and then 20 more people can get that. You can see how that cost can rack up a lot higher than if we were to purchase a physical item. So our expenses for materials have significantly increased in library land because e-materials are what everybody's using during this time of COVID. They're not coming into the library, they're using our apps. And those materials are our most expensive materials. So that is why we consider ourselves still very vital in the community. We're still providing information to the community. We're still providing that access to the community. In the past, I've been told that the allocation that is given to the county or from the county to the libraries is just over 300,000, 312,134, and that hasn't really risen with the tax valuation of property. If it were to rise with the 5%, we'd be asking for 329,600, I believe. And I'm asking for that rise to happen this year because of this cost of the downloadable materials and how they're much more expensive. And that's how many, many individuals in our community are engaging with us. The other thing that we are providing through Council Bluffs and then thus our county can get is a service that's called lynda.com. Lynda.com is provided by LinkedIn. It's a LinkedIn product. It's a database. And through that, you can gain access to coursework and online skill building that can help you in job and development, resume development, getting jobs, getting skills to get jobs, learning those skills. And that is going to be vital as we experience the low employment that we're experiencing in our community and wanting to get that back up. Okay? Lastly, the last thing I want to highlight is that traditionally, county individuals would have to drive into the different communities to attend programs, to see speakers, to participate in book clubs, to get that community engagement. They would have to, leave their homes, come into the communities to get that. With COVID, we have pivoted, and all of that is available electronically online. So they can now have access to wonderful speakers, wonderful engagement with book clubs. They can come and get crafts. They can use story times online. They can have that early literacy component, all of that now from their homes online. And so you'll see that our storytime videos, reach over 822 individuals. Every single time we post a story time, which is once a week, we post a story time anytime online. It gets, it gets hundreds of hits, hundreds of views. We had one that got over 300 views, and that's wonderful. We also send this out into the community, into daycares, into home cares, so that individuals are still getting that enrichment. So that costs us, obviously, because it's staff time, it's staff props, all those kinds of things. So another component of the money that we get from the county obviously goes towards the technology needed to be able to produce those videos and get those videos out and the rights that are needed to do that. So that's just a quick and dirty overview of what's happening at the library and why the money that the Board of Supervisors allocates to the library is so very important to helping our community and our county be connected and engaged and empowered. Any questions?
I do, I guess, got a couple.
Yeah.
One, I guess, welcome
Thank
to
you.
the community. I don't know, where you from?
So I grew up in Nebraska,
Okay.
but I recently just moved from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, welcome. And then secondly, just for my information, this downloadable circulation, this book example you talked about, you buy it for $35 and then you get 20 downloads of it. So these people that download it, has it got like some kind of timer on it that they gotta, I guess, read it or whatever in such amount of time and then it disappears?
Absolutely, that's exactly what happens. So it essentially has, they go through our platform, they can download an app, that's a library app, and they download it through there, and then they have 21 days to read it. And then once they hit that 21-day mark, it just becomes unavailable to open. and then it goes off of their device, and they would have to re-download it. But every download counts against our total number, and every title is different, every publisher is different, but we don't own it as a library necessarily. We own the rights to allow people to download it, and then once we hit that, then we have to repurchase the item.
But they wouldn't be able to potentially download it again unless you had those available
Exactly.
for that.
Like the same person can't do it 2 months in a row, can they?
They
Take up
can't.
some of your.
They
okay.
But it
can.
goes against the 21.
It goes against our internal number of 20, or like I said, every publisher has it kind of differently. But yeah, it goes against our internal number, and then, so we purchase a certain number of accessible downloads at a time. So like for Patterson, we would probably purchase, 4 people could have it downloaded at the same time, but that's 4 against our 20. So then it kind of is always this rolling number. So that's how those can really increase really fast, but that's how our community is accessing us right now.
So what triggers a repurchase? I mean, if you're slowing down on the downloads, you don't just automatically buy 21 more, do you?
So it's set number for each title. What kind of triggers it is the desire, the patron's desire. So we have a holds list. So you wait in line for the next person. If we see that, there's 20 people waiting, we'll purchase more downloads. But then for other titles that nobody's waiting for, maybe we only keep about 4 downloads. So it kind of ebbs and flows for every single title.
All right.
Yep.
So the 35 is different for different, authors or whatever?
Exactly.
So is that the top end or the bottom, or is that the middle?
That's the middle.
So,
That's the middle. Yep.
so what would be a top end?
A top end number would be closer to like 60 or 70.
70 for the
Wow.
same amount of downloads?
It depends. Depends on the popularity, and it depends on the author. So like President Barack Obama's book, much more expensive. It's a bigger book, it's a bigger file, high demand. And they'll do that to libraries. Now, if you go to Amazon, you won't see that. You just see it. It's $4.50 or whatever to download. But for libraries, this is definitely a way that publishing companies have figured out a way to gouge libraries, essentially.
So, I mean, we're moving digitally, so, I mean,
Yeah.
the young kids are probably gonna read more books online than that. So the old authors, are there downloads that aren't, I guess that you have to pay for also, or not?
So some of the older authors, that's a good question. Some of the older authors, some of like what we'd consider trade paperbacks, so the romance novels, the things that you see in like the airline bookstores that are very inexpensive, those ones are much cheaper. Those ones we sometimes can get unlimited downloads on. We pay a flat rate on those, but it really depends on the popularity of the author and what's happening in the culture. You know what I mean, as far as what they're going to charge libraries. They also do things called embargoes, where they make us wait, or they say you can get 1 copy but no more, and they make libraries wait, and so we have to just kind of dance the line. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting land out there in ebook lands, but because, and I share this with you because this is how our community is using the library right now.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to know, well, it's not just about our physical materials and the cost of our physical materials, because those, we buy that copy and then we always have that copy. It sits on our shelf, we only have to buy it once, people share it. But with the downloads, it's much different, and it's a different structure, and it's kind of hard to understand from a point of, well, I just bought my Amazon book and I didn't have to buy it again. Well, that's nice. It's different for a public institution, so.
How do you know that this person who's downloading is a Potawatomi County resident,
So they have to have a library card.
whether it's CB or Eccles or
So
Avoca?
we're working on, I was working with them to determine what is the unincorporated residence versus like a city resident versus a like Walnut resident or vice versa. We're working on separating those numbers. We haven't quite gotten it there yet because they're very intertwined. But I would like to, next time I come to y'all, be able to have that so you can see, that increase in what is truly Potawatomi County versus CB versus other cities.
Do all the little towns join into the library?
Yes, yeah, we have.
All of them do?
Well, we have, we have either city contracts, town contracts with certain libraries, and then other libraries, 4 other libraries that take this pot of money that you provide, it gets separated out to them as well, through a percentage basis of their city's usage.
So this number I have on my library card would get me,
What we've got here is, discussion on the funding, and it was posted as such. So we would have to put it on the next week's agenda for, discussion and decision of
Okay.
the library funding.
You're at 310,334
well,
now?
you do, Scott, you do that when you approve your budget.
Pardon?
I don't know that you need a particular motion other than whatever's
You're looking basically
in your budget.
to achieve the
Our
growth.
budget.
We're looking to achieve the growth. Up until this point, we've kind of stayed flat. You've given the 312 every year. But I'm looking to ask for that additional 5% in tax evasion value so that it would be 329,600.
Okay.
So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is something.
That's not the council plus library figure.
Right, no.
No,
No,
I
no, no,
understand
no.
that, it's our contribution.
That's your
Correct.
contribution, and it would go, like I said, it would split up among Carter Lake, Oakland, Walnut, and Ovica? There we go.
And Crescent has a contract with it too.
Exactly, Crescent, so then we have city contracts with some other, but this particular money, this amount that you give, it gets split up among those based upon a percentage of usage. They share their circulation numbers with me, and then I let them know this is how much your city would get.
Okay.
But they aren't in what I would say competition.
No, they're
Their
not.
patrons are going to your online site to download that book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that accurate?
Yes, and one of the, so we have a number of different platforms we use for the streamable materials or the downloadable materials. One of those is a city-wide, or not city, but a statewide one that we pay into. And so then they would have access to that, but we're the access point for it,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your budget for this fiscal year is about 3.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
What are you providing to the city of Council Bluffs for this year's fiscal year 21?
It's very similar. It's very similar to that 3.1 million. I don't believe it raised much more above that. I think it might be 3.2.
Do they
but-
set your budget for you, or do you set it?
So I give them recommendations. I tell them this is how much I need for materials, this is how much I need for staffing. They primarily pay for my staffing and they primarily pay for my materials. Programming and things of that nature, that goes through our foundation. So not as much money comes from the City of Council Bluffs. I have a foundation that pays for materials for programs, and they pay for the building. And so that's primarily what you're seeing here. When it says the 3.1 million, about 1.5 million of that is just personnel. So a hefty portion of the, and then about half of the other, 1.5 million is building maintenance and that, and then it kind of dwindles down as far as technology maintenance. Everything has to go through technology. We have a catalog system, that kind of thing. So the materials budget for like what we spend on items is about $500,000. It's about 500,000. And so your allocation of the 329,000, if you were to allocate that, is a substantial portion of our materials budget.
Have you made that presentation to the city council yet?
It was made on my behalf by the last director. I am having those conversations right now to kind of pin that down even further because I get pretty granular with numbers. Like I can tell you that this is how much money we have spent for ebooks and those kinds of things, and not a lot of people understand the downloadable part of things, and that's why I wanted to explain that to you because it looks different. So I haven't gotten that far down. I intend to.
So how many year, is this, I'm just asking, I don't remember Kathy explaining that to us, that downloadable certificate. How many years have we been doing that process?
The downloadables, in libraries, it's been about 12 years.
Okay,
So it's quite recent, but like I said, it's really expanded in this past year, it's what everybody really depended
Right,
on.
with COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID, everybody really depended upon that. But it's been a platform that libraries have provided for about the past dozen years or so.
So what's that trend look like going forward?
So it's really equal out. So there was this belief about 12 years ago when this came on the scene, and I don't know if you remember the e-readers and how there was about 25,000 different kinds of e-readers out there that everybody, you could get Kobo, you could get a Kindle, you could get all these kinds of things. Now there's really two, and it's more about the apps that you get on your phone. But as far as the trend goes, it's really equalized between individuals who are just accessing the electronic versus individuals who are reading the book. And so we don't anticipate electronic taking over print materials. It's just that right now we're really grateful to have that opportunity for our community, for sure.
Sure. Okay, well, you guys are tracking it, so,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions?
No, so do we need to vote on this, or we just need to add it to our budget?
Well, I would think you could go ahead and make a motion if you want to put it on the agenda next week, but if you put it in your budget and approve the budget, then it's in there. That's what I would think. It's like,
Okay.
you know, just like your PACE and Advanced Southwest Iowa and all the other contributions you make, you just stuck them in there without presentations. But
Well, when Pace they came and made their request.
Request, yeah.
Everybody makes their request.
yeah,
You know,
I just think we put it on the agenda.
yeah, if you want
Let's put it on
to.
the agenda for next week. What?
So we'll just vote on it next week, basically.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, did you want me to come back next week,
No,
or
I
you guys
don't
feel
have
you
to.
have
It's up
enough
to you.
information on that?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Does anybody else want her to come back?
No, I just would like, maybe a couple of numbers. You know, our growth was about 3%. It wasn't 5. So, you know, if we can kind of get that number, we can take a look at, do we leave the levy the same? How much money
I was
does
gonna
that
say,
provide?
where did you see the 5? Was that
I
from the
think-
assessor?
I think Becky gave it to me
Becky did?
as a 5.
Because I can't remember, she gave us some numbers, and I can't remember, it seemed like there was
Was
some
that last
difference.
week she gave us that?
Here?
Let's see.
Here it is.
I'm on the phone. Yeah, that's last week.
No, it wasn't even 3%. It was less than that. Because we're talking the rural fund here, not the general. So it's a long ways from 5.
I mean, I guess, at the end of the day, if we can see the accurate numbers for the library, that'll help us.
Okay.
And then we'll vote on it next week.
So,
It's up to you if you want to come or not.
these here,
Kind of depend on if it's below 0 again outside or not.
17, 18, 15, 20. She's showing 5. She's showing 39,
I
600.
think so. I don't know, what 5% are you talking about?
She's going 17, levy rate is 17, 478.
Oh, for
If we left the levy
evaluation.
the
and all that?
same, it looks like their increase would be a 5%.
Yeah,
Leaving the levy rate the same, it does work that way.
okay.
Or we leave the dollars the same and the levy rate goes down a penny.
And evaluation is,
Wouldn't be quite a penny, would it?
Well,
okay,
Okay.
okay.
I mean,
Awesome.
I think if we take a look at where the rural went up,
Yeah.
what was our increase in valuation?
We'll let you know.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice presentation.
Yep, nice presentation.
And if you ever have any other questions, just let me know.
Okay. Maria Seek, Public Health Administrator, discussion and decision on overtime for temporary employees working on holiday due to COVID response.
So our disease investigation continues 7 days a week, which includes the weekends, holidays, observed holidays. And we typically have 4 temporary staff scheduled on these days. I'm requesting to approve holiday pay and overtime pay for those temporary employees scheduled for those holidays to conduct those response activities through June.
Okay, we did this once, didn't we?
Yeah,
So we're just extending it?
basically, yes, through
You
June.
said through June,
So it'd be 3 holidays.
June 30th, 2021?
Yep.
Okay.
So that would go retroact for the January 18th, please.
Does that, are those potentially reimbursable expenses then,
Yeah,
Yes.
because it's salary
from one to
for
the other?
COVID reasons, yeah.
Got any idea, kind of a number?
On how much it would cost? It'd be an additional $3,750 through June, which would be overtime and holiday pay for 4 staff members.
And the alternative is you just don't, you can't work those hours and days. I mean,
We don't have a holiday till, what, May?
I think there's President's Day next week,
Yeah.
February 15th.
Easter, and then,
Easter's this, yeah, I suppose they can work on Sunday.
Memorial Day.
Our cases are going down, oh, that's a good thing.
yeah, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, Supervisor Schultz, Supervisor Shea, any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, Jana Limerick, Director of Human Resources, discussion and
Thanks,
or
Maria.
plan or
Good job Saturday.
assume to decision to approve updated job description for Bridge Crew Tech 1, 2, and 3. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you just change this from before, is that what I'm understanding? Or did we just create it?
Are you
Was this a
talking about-
change from the previous?
Job description?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So the bridge crew job description has traditionally been truck driver laborer, so it's not an accurate representation of that job. And the bridge crew, we do have turnover in that position. It's a difficult position, there's a lot of certifications that they need to get. And so we wanted to go ahead and create some leveling in there. First, we wanted a job description that's really accurately representing what they're doing. So when we do have to hire, people know what they're getting into. But we also wanted to create some leveling in there as well for those certifications, because those certifications are needed. Maybe they're not all needed if you're hired as a bridge crew one, but to be able to grow in that position. And those certifications are expensive, so we'd like to be able to retain those employees as well. So by creating this leveling, we're giving them something to grow on, as well as, you know, structuring that department for who's gonna do what.
We got one bridge crew, right? Okay. But what do they do in the winter?
Bridges.
I mean, do we continually, through the winter,
Yeah, they pull them in to fill in for snow routes, that they're on a bridge now. They'll get most of it built.
maintenance in the winter for the crew, for the bridges?
Yeah, right now they started on our bridge, they won't be able to pour concrete in this weather, obviously,
Right.
so they'll get to a stopping point, then they'll go out and do bridge planks and that sort of stuff. But they fill in for the snow crew, so they probably haven't done much else but push snow recently, so.
So when did we just ban from 2 to 1 bridge crews?
When did we do what? I'm sorry.
About 2 years ago, when,
Been 2
Step
years?
back from 2 to 1 crew.
Oh,
yeah, so when the bridge foreman moved on, we promoted one of these crew leaders And the problem was we only had 2 certified, so it didn't make sense to promote to a crew leader at that time without the certifications.
So a bridge crews typically, crew, I wouldn't say crew, is it typically of 5 people or?
We had 2 crews of 3, which if one person's gone, that's not real effective, so we went to 1 of 5 to
Okay.
make it work out. But we need another crane operator. We just have one.
You need another one, you said?
Yeah, we have 1 certified crew leader, then we pull the foreman and run the crane occasionally too.
Okay, so this, proposal we're looking at will be potentially 2 crane?
Well, so this proposal is updating the job description, not necessarily asking for staff. I think that might be something a little different. And so if you look on page 2, the second page of the job description, down there at the bottom lists those classifications where it'd be Bridge Tech 1, 2, and 3. And we created this job description so that we can post it
Special qualifications, or what are we looking at?
under position classifications and pay schedule.
Position.
Sorry, page 3.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Sorry.
Okay,
And so that way we could, when we post this, we post it as bridge crew. And then depending on the applicants that we get in and what they need, we can use this one job description for a 1, 2, or 3. And then the pay would be there as appropriate, how they're coming in, as well as while they're in this job, the certification that they get. So if John has a bridge technician 2, he's saying he needs another certified crane operator and someone is working towards that and it's needed, then they would be able to move them up to a grade 6 when it's appropriate.
okay, so, is there 5 people now?
Correct.
Okay, and then it doesn't show on this one up on page, I'm not sure what page that, it doesn't show what they are, whether they're a 1, 2, or 3 on this one for these, but, it's got DD, TR.
Oh, okay, so.
Oh, on the memo, yeah.
Yeah, those are their initials, just to kind of help, but currently we have 4 truck driver laborers, and then just 1 crew leader, so we would propose that 3 of the truck driver laborers would be Tech 1s, 1 would go to the Tech 2, which is in training, and then our crew leader would stay the same, because the Tech 3s and crew leaders are on the same scale.
Okay.
And so you're right, there would be a little cost to this, which you see in that memo, approximately $4,800. We're proposing making this effective May 1st because I'd like it to be in effect before July 1st. That way, when the July 1st pay increases happen, they're not happening at the same time. That way we can distinguish the dates, if we ever need to go back in history and look in Tyler to know what changed and when.
Are these positions in the Baker Tilly study?
That's an excellent question. They're not because they're in as truck driver laborers. So the way the Baker Tilly looked at it is as truck driver laborers. So there was no specific bridge crew data from Baker Tilly.
Can I touch on the recruiting of
Yes.
the last 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so last March, we had to post externally for 3 of the bridge crew positions, which we posted as truck driver laborers, and we get a lot of long-haul truck drivers and very little labor experience. So this will kind of help us get some of those people that can actually do the labor part or have that actual bridge experience too. So then we had 3 last year, and then once we recruited, we kind of had to start that training process all over. And then as far as getting their certified rigger certification, we're just now getting that, and they'll be here for a year. So it takes a long time to even get those entry-level employees trained up to where we need them to be. So to keep them on the bridge crew or to actually have them coming in, understanding the work they're gonna do, I think that's part of the seeing them leave sometimes is we post for that truck driver labor and then they come in and realize the workload they have and it's just not something that's fit for them. So we really drilled in on this job description to kind of, portray what the true work is out there.
What, help me, Tina, what's the guy's first name that runs the bridge crew?
The foreman or the crew leader?
Foreman.
That's Matt White.
Matt, that's it.
Now, who's the other guy?
The crew leader's Chad Hiller.
Who?
Chad Hiller.
The current, that 2146, that's for a truck driver laborer,
Yes.
and we're just proposing to make it 21. Is this gonna be will this be added to the Baker Tilly? I mean, how are you gonna do that?
So we're proposing to make this effective May 1st, and then we can put it in the Baker Tilly, you know, if you wanted to see an overall, to add this into the cost of all of it.
Not necessarily the cost, but just so that, you take a compare between the truck driver laborer versus the bridge crew. I mean, I've seen these guys in action on 2 different sites, and they are phenomenal.
And
I'm not sure we're paying them, and maybe I better not go there. So I don't have any issues with it at all. Is there a motion required for that?
I already made a motion.
Oh, okay. You second that, Brian?
No, I just,
I'll second it.
Is this in the Baker Tilly format too? So I know take it off.
Any other discussion?
What?
hey, John, how many bridges do you do on average?
The best year we had, we did 12. We've been as low as 4 with some of our turnover.
Bigger ones, or your
We,
turnover?
well, with turnover, we kind of start over in experience, so we're not as, that's kind of why we need to keep that crew there, is when we start over, we have to train all those people and lose.
How do you feel the crew is now?
Oh, they're getting there. I mean, we've had about a year with
They'll
these
be here a
guys.
year in March, the 3
How many have we
new
done in the last 2 years?
ones. We've had 5 new employees come on the bridge crew in the last 2 years,
So-
so,
Yeah, in one crew.
yeah.
So the turnover hasn't helped us at all, because there's lots of weeks we don't have enough people.
Are we, I mean, I'm taking it you're doing exit interviews, or you're figuring out what turnovers, why? I mean, are we,
Yeah.
is it competitiveness or something, or why are we losing these guys?
It's tough work. We had one guy go to the city of Avoca, I think, was
Yeah.
an odd one. A lot of people are they're taking promotions to other jobs. They can get paid more to
Sit in a truck and
Be less
not
labor,
be in
yeah.
the weather conditions, yeah.
So I guess that's my point, are we paying this position?
So that's kind of why we're proposing
Baker Tilly
the,
gonna come back and give us,
oh,
This data?
I can sure ask them, since the bridge crew, you know, and this job description was not part of their initial, I can ask them, what data they have. I can reach out to other county HR directors as well to see if they, you know, have specific, bridge crew. Right, but we feel that this is a really good step, and by creating that 2, 4, and 6, you know, that pay grade 2, 4, and 6, to help give them that move in there.
So the top 2 guys have been there a while, correct?
Chad's probably been on that crew 10 years, and Josh will be 6 in June. So
And Chad's
Chad's the crew leader, and I would say he's been on there for 10 years. And then Josh will be there for 6 years in June. And then the other 3 in March will have their 1-year anniversary on the bridge crew.
And I think Tina stepped these wages out, so if they were gonna bid into another job, those proposed wages are gonna be the same. So if a lot of them say they like the work, they just, you know, if they can make more money
Okay, so
just over here,
the
so.
technician 1, 2, and 3, is that a different stepping program?
Right.
It would be a pay grade 2, 4, or 6,
Yeah.
respectively.
And their biggest thing is they kind of lost their out-of-class pay too.
Say that again.
They lost out-of-class pay in their new contract, so that was really their opportunity to make that extra money for running the heavy equipment. So we just kind of tried to find a way for them to have an incentive to stay on the bridge crew together.
John, are they good crew?
Did we have one move here from Montgomery County?
Cassuth
Cassuth
County, actually.
County.
We have one from Cassuth that's on the bridge crew now.
I think he's talking about building.
That was, yeah, years ago.
Well, I guess that second piece would be, we can review it.
Well, then, just, you know, besides being a job, it may also be a function of the environment that we're in. far as, you know, looking for employees. So, we better just make sure that we're balanced.
Yeah, I'd just
So-
like to see this board consider not doing a whole lot of these recommendations until we do something with Baker Tilly.
Yeah.
Because we don't even have, we haven't even made a decision on what we're doing with Baker Tilly, so we're already making changes that, and I'm not having the issue with this at all. I really don't. That's just that, that's what got us in trouble to begin with. You know, when you start giving out raises here and there, and pretty soon, well, the next department says, well, my clerk does as much as their clerk does, so, I mean, that's what you get into. So I'd like for the board to step up the effort on the Baker Tilly study and make some kind of a recommendation to move forward.
No, well, this is the decision we're making right now,
It is.
so, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, let's take 5 minutes and then we'll start back up.
Thank you guys for your time today. It's
Trying a whole bunch more money.
good to be in person. Locked and still is doing that.
Bobby will go first, and you guys can see out here. Sure. Good. That wasn't necessarily voluntold. I'll get you out of here.
Show up, everybody leaves.
That's
huh?
right.
We're out of here.
Getting the state of the art center downstairs, they still won't be.
Not
The
knowing,
rural didn't go up much.
oh, not knowing what,
What fun.
Okay.
So we had a big,
right.
Yeah, I was gonna hand out one of them,
I got them too.
Okay.
So, yeah. We had a big,
You make that up?
Hey, did you have to post people out last, whatever the hell day it was?
Well, last Friday for the compost thing?
Yeah,
We were ready to help if they needed it, but
okay, you
they,
didn't have to,
no, them, CB and Marshall took care of it, so.
okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you guys had to do that or not. And then you'll be, I assume you'll be over there, thank you. Thursday, I got assessors meeting over here Thursday, and then I'm not,
Well, Thursday night?
yeah,
Yeah.
EMA, it's Brian and Justin are
Yep, I'll be there.
our representatives. Combine with everybody.
I will be there, my man.
I mean, do you even know how many you had to go through on the vaccination thing?
I don't have a number.
Okay,
Nope, I don't.
no, nobody got,
We had one get sick.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
For just one day, or?
Yeah, I think vaccinated in the early afternoon. And then I think he said about midnight he was barfing, and then
Really?
at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then all day Sunday, he kind of felt bad, but then Sunday evening came around and just went away, so.
Huh.
I'll ping him when I get back to make sure.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Did you guys all get new Tyler sheets
I
for
just,
this budget?
I just gave him mine.
Okay, you gave him yours.
Yep.
Okay, so I can get rid of that one.
He gave us 911, Bob did.
Okay. And I assume what we want to talk about today is just changes and that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, and,
Not really go through the line items and,
no,
okay, good.
just, overall would be my guess. guess.
Yeah, and we gave you some cash.
They might have some other. Oh, man.
You get tired of coming up here, Bob? Don't you have work to do downstairs?
Actually, I'm across the river still.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Yeah, we got,
Oh, I thought you were still on campus here.
no, Christine, she's staying over here and I'm over there with the troops. So she's,
Where's Veronica?
Christine, Veronica, and one of our radio techs are all over at the annex.
Yeah,
And that conference room where you guys were for a while.
yeah.
They're-
No,
they've
I
been-
thought you were down there too.
No, we got me and, our train coordinator and one of our other radio techs. We're over across the river.
What's the timeline on moving back? You got any idea?
Just talked to Slack on the way, when he just left here, we're still looking like, around April 1st that we should be able to get our guys in there, putting our equipment in and so forth. There might be some finishing up work on the contractor's part, but, it's gonna take us probably about another month and a half to get our stuff in, so we're looking at probably middle of April maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at least, yeah.
2 months.
Hey,
Any bugs in there? You want the box?
No, this is my one, eye waters.
No.
Yeah, where did all the Kleenexes go that were in here?
Why don't you, take time and
Go grab some.
go grab a couple boxes and bring in.
I know we used, and this is getting empty too.
There's some new ones over there under the, jammed in the cupboard. This cold weather makes me tired.
Yeah. I think everybody's kinda getting ready for it to end.
Well, I thought we were supposed to get up in the 20s next week, but I don't know if we are or not. Bill Ramby said we're still looking at low 10s, single digits next week.
Yeah, Sunday looks pretty bad. I think the high for the day on Sunday is
Yeah,
supposed to be
how you
like
doing?
-6.
Good,
for a
what's
high.
going on?
19.
Trying to keep my head
I
above
don't
water.
know, 81 or 82,
Okay, ain't
early 80s.
So far, ain't
It
been
was
fired
like
yet.
this for the whole month of December. I
We'll see
remember
how-
one day the
We'll see if
high
I make it through today.
0.
Yeah.
High below. It was just nasty for weeks and weeks.
And you got my email on that other deal?
Yes, I did.
I don't.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Not specifically, but I'm guessing yes too.
Fairfield, you're being awful quiet back there.
Yes, I am, just taking good notes.
Oh, yeah.
You working both days this weekend?
Well, there's
yes.
schools, so they say.
Invited my wife on Saturday.
On Saturday?
She said she might.
So we'll see her on Saturday?
I talked to Matt, yeah.
What's
Said they
that?
could use it, so.
Yeah. Good. We'll see her.
Good.
Yeah, we already had a
Scott,
discussion, we had a discussion earlier.
But we did.
Need some taper on that thing, doesn't it?
Becky, you on the phone still? There's something at noon today.
You are on?
Hello?
That was today.
Did you ask for me?
Pardon?
Yeah, is that, Becky, is that thing today at noon or am I crazy? You're playing into that.
Oh, Yeah, it's supposed to be today, isn't it, the consultation?
Yes.
You're making me think.
Where was it? I don't know who published the notice.
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah. So, and did you have the planning meeting on the 8th at 5:30 already?
Yeah, they did that
Yes,
yesterday.
yes.
Okay, so you did the planning meeting, and then today would be the consultation at noon, if anyone arrives. That would have been sent out to the city and the school.
So what do we have to,
So at noon, we just have to pause the county board meeting, right? And just,
Yeah,
and then if no one shows up, then we're done, or?
yep.
do we, no motions or
That's
anything?
my understanding of it. This is
Just a
our first meeting I
consultation.
participated in this stuff.
Is there any decision or anything we have to say?
So my understanding of it was we just have to have somebody there as a representative ready to answer any questions. They were given a packet that Andrew would have mailed out that listed the whole plan and pretty much the same information that we told the city on that consultation meeting we had before they signed the agreement.
Yep.
Here's the area, here's why we're doing it, and no, we're not tax increment financing, so there's no TIF involved, no revenues involved from it, and ask if they have any questions. I've only attended one in my whole time there, and they were surprised we showed up. Marilyn and I did out in Oakland, and fed us some donuts and coffee and said, here's what we're doing, and we said, okay, that looks great, and we left. So I don't expect there's going to be any issues because it's just a plan. It's an area
We have the plan.
plan for a tool, not a test. So
I mean, I have the email she sent,
The email,
like the same one we sent the city.
the one that was on the planning commission meeting had the layout in it that I attended that yesterday. Okay, well, we'll see if anybody shows up at noon. We may just take a.
We can be done by noon.
Okay, well, we'll just pause at noon real quick and then we'll,
See what happens.
nothing happens and we'll just keep on going.
Okay. Where do we want to start, with Bob?
Yeah, we'll just get down then.
Okay.
Jeff and I will handle the jail and sheriff's budget, so.
Okay. You want to go, Bob?
Sure. Is there anywhere specific you'd like me to start, or might just go over it again that we did?
Did you cut anything?
We cut 27,000.
Where'd you do that at?
But we have,
I think 10 was from the, 10,000
Overtime.
from the overtime and 17 from the COVID expenses that
Right.
we weren't going to budget for.
yeah. So his went down the least, 27,000.
10,000 in overtime, you said?
Yep. He's still at about a 2.36 increase year to year.
I'm not seeing any change in overtime, still $110,000.
So this is an old,
Yeah, I guess I didn't make a correction to the sheet. I thought that was what we were going to discuss today, so.
Okay.
You didn't make any changes? So
No,
we need to take that down to 100?
Yep, take it down.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay, what was the other one?
on 110,000, goes down to 100,000.
100.
Yeah, and then we zeroed out all the 019s, the COVID. And we got better direction about, those things have to be zeroed out for the FEMA reimbursements.
So there was just the one for 17,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's
so the
correct.
total request, we're just down 27,000.
Yeah.
Well, 10,000 in the general. 17 in the general
So
supplemental, so
Yeah.
that makes a difference too.
Yep.
How come we're still at 100 on overtime? Why?
Why is it at 100? That's, this year, obviously our overtime expense, as you see, year to date, hasn't been very high. We haven't had people taking time off because of COVID. So people just weren't taking their vacations. And, the last previous years prior to that, our overtime expenses, have been coming, let's see if I can find the line item, here we go. We budgeted 110, it came in at 124. In 1920, it was 110, we came in at 77. It just seems to be the round number, a good round number to be at.
Okay.
And it's a manpower issue too.
I was just gonna ask, don't you have 3 coming on?
Well, we got one in training right now, and we're just putting an ad in the paper, and we're about ready to start doing testing for additional 2.
And at that point, you could hire 3 people, couldn't you?
Yes, we're trying to get to our full staff level, and if we're working in full capacity, we anticipate overtime not being that high, yes.
It would sure help the other workers, wouldn't it?
Yes, it does.
When you said hire 3 people, I missed that.
Well, the 110,000 overtime or 100,000.
Can't get 3 people.
I misspoke, okay.
Well, if we can do that, we better roll.
I just.
It would tremendously help the overtime, yes. Yep.
Okay. I just have a.
And that's what previous years, you have the $120-some thousand in overtime. Of course, this last year with COVID and being pretty close to full staff has really reduced the overtime. So, I mean, of course, then your wages go up, but then your overtime goes down, so.
Right. I'd rather see that. Keep things. When people ain't burnt out. That's one of your main things.
That is one of our primary goals, yes.
Well, you're here, Bob.
Yes.
Real quick, and maybe you don't know, or are some of these towers, are all of them on lease ground?
No, we own the Carson site, McClellan site, trying to think, and,
When you say home, you own the
Hancock,
ground?
we own the ground,
It's
yeah.
on county ground, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, is it just like a postage stamp, or is it more than a postage stamp?
Technically, Carson's the only one on county ground. The other ones we leased. We own the tower site, but we lease the ground.
The Carson one?
The Carson we own. It's actually on buildings or secondary roads.
What's Secondary Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the big lake tower?
Big Lake Tower is actually at the sheriff's department. We own that ground as well. Yep.
Okay, then the 35 or.
The rest of them were doing land leases?
Yes. Loveland is actually, Loveland's site is a cell tower site. We just pay them a lease fee.
On the tower?
Yes.
We don't own the.
And if you look at those leases, there's one that's a little bit out of whack, if you've noticed that.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've talked about that. I don't know if I have a solution yet.
What's the expectation? I mean, is it 50 years on the towers, or, I mean, I know what the battle was to get these put in, whatever that was.
I have no idea what's life expectancy on towers.
Yeah, I don't know what the lease looks like on any of these. I would have to defer to Matt's shop upstairs and find out.
As far as I understand, the contract reads, it's reoccurring, and it's a 3% increase here every year.
Yeah, but how long does the tower last? Like physically?
A physical tower? Oh, gosh. I'm not sure what their lifespans are, but
Very long.
yeah, I'd say 50 years or so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the tower, it depends on how much equipment they put on it.
I mean, yeah, that one at McClellan has been there for 40 years.
Yeah, the tower sites themselves last forever, but the equipment that we constantly are updating.
That one on Brandis, is that any different?
That's the one that's expensive, right?
Hancock?
Yeah, the issue with that, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but Motorola picked that site. When we did the thing in 2009, part of the issue was the southern, especially the southeast part of the county had a lot of dead spots. And that tower site was picked specifically by Motorola. And we were kind of tied to a certain square box where we could put it in to get the 95% coverage across the county. But
Can I ask, and I know you probably don't know, but we have the recycling center there. Would that be a better move?
when they cited it, they did not.
I doubt it, because it's lower than what
Yeah.
this area is. It's probably because it's the one that's on top of the hill outside of Hancock, and it'll
Oh, okay.
shoot the county better, so.
Okay.
Do you think there's a 3% in each one of them,
Yes, I'm confident there's 3% in each one.
I mean, one of the things we could look at is putting it at least on CPI or something, so it just goes up as high as the consumer price index every year instead of a broad brush 3%. It's just an idea.
Yeah, no,
22,000's hurting one.
well,
I can just tell you from my experience, they're all 3 to 5%.
right, no,
Every year, so
but I mean,
you're not gonna get much different than that. And that's why that one that, somebody wanted us to sign an agreement, and I don't think there was an escalator in it, or it was 1% or something like that. And I mean, that's just, you know, they want us to sign an agreement with them for 1%.
well, that was Verizon.
Why they charge us.
Well, we're working a deal with one of these tower sites right now with Verizon that would give us a little bit of payback on one of the towers.
Yep, that's correct.
But I guess I'm just, what's the system, isn't there a statewide system too? What's it called?
ISIX,
ISIX, is that?
they don't have any, I shouldn't say they don't have any. They would need 2 additional towers in our county to become viable for us. And Bob has a PowerPoint that he's preparing, and at some point we'd like to come to the board with it, because there is another generation of this radio thing gonna befall upon all of us here in about 4 or 5 years. And we need to start getting prepared for it.
So, is this, ISIX or whatever the state system, are they jumping on other towers, or do they actually have towers?
Bob, you wanna answer?
Sure. The ISIX when they built their system, they put 1 tower in each county. Ours is actually up there by the headquarters, by the ISP headquarters there.
Oh, okay,
The one I try to hit with the airplane all the time when I'm landing in Council.
That's actually the state tower for Potawatomi County. It does, so
it's on state ground?
it's on state ground, they own that tower. If there was any, so when they go to every county, they ask is there a need, is there a coverage issue that you're having that our tower could help you out with? And that would be a local enhancement. That tower did us absolutely no benefit whatsoever. If we would venture into looking to, join in the state ISIX system, then that's one of our connections. You'd have to have 2 connection sites, that would be one of them. The second one would be, I believe it's in Cass County.
So your costs, no matter what, are gonna go up every year on these leases, and I don't know how many years you've been now, so they've gone up by 30%.
3% since 2009.
2009? Wow. I don't know, I guess, I don't know, I kinda understand, I don't know where I kinda know where they're all at, but why they didn't look at using a power to get the property, it's beyond me, but.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Did you guys get Tyler sheets on the jail and?
No.
Okay.
So those new ones you have, Bo?
Yeah, these are the 228.
Done, Bob, then?
You got them?
No,
Yeah, Bob.
I'm just making sure the ones you're giving us aren't from
No,
December.
Are we done with Bob?
Yeah, Bob can go.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
So I
Bob.
guess we're doing.
How much you
the-
wanna get into it now before
we got
noon?
first.
You got 3 minutes.
Looks like.
I think we just-
Handed in the jail.
How many need to
Are
be
the
on
changes in
console?
this?
Should be, yeah.
Nina promised me they are.
I don't think we need to, I don't know.
Where are you gonna have this? Oh, so if they come in, then you can just write.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
Are we required to do this?
Yes.
Now, the way, we've gotta take a break from our regular agenda before we publish.
So we vote for a pause, or?
I just think we
The
just,
chairman can do that.
yeah, we just go to recess real quick until we verify that no one's coming for this council.
Consultation.
We just put it in the minutes that we wrote for consultation.
Becky, is anyone calling in for this? From all the community or?
I believe when it was sent out, they could also call in. Call the normal options were given.
Is there anybody else on the line?
Let's give it a couple minutes and.
Well, I don't know if we'd like say anything formal or not, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
Well,
where is
We
it?
can make it formal just in case.
I agree.
I don't know that there's an agenda.
I mean, for every presentation, there needs to be something that states that the board met.
Well, he will in the minutes.
Well, where's the agenda?
No, it was posted.
We'll put it in there.
It was published and stuff.
It was on a
I
different,
think that's what,
it was published and posted as a consultation, or I suppose the other entities were just notified of the consultation.
Right.
Correct. It's not an actual.
You notify the taxing entities, the schools and the city.
That was just the city of Council Bluffs and the CB School District?
So,
Yes.
So they were notified.
yeah, so I'm just gonna read this off real quick. This is the notice of a consultation to be held between Potawatomi County, State of Iowa, and all affected taxing entities concerning the proposed Potawatomi County Courthouse Campus Urban Renewal Plan for Potawatomi County, State of Iowa. And then it kind of just talks to different code sections, so, we basically,
So it's 12 o'clock, is today the date, time, and place for this consultation?
yeah, February 9th at 12 p.m. 2021, so.
Is there any legal action we need to take on this?
No, there's nothing we're gonna do, we just are here to answer questions for anyone that would potentially have those questions. So if there's any members of the public here that have questions on our urban renewal. And I guess is anyone on the phone call that has any questions on our consultation for the urban renewal?
Can you tell them how many people were on there? Is there anybody on the phone call?
Other than Becky is.
No, we can't tell if there's other people in there. They were able to do that somehow with.
Well, we were, but then whenever they left, why then the operator told us everybody was leaving, one at a time. So if you want to turn it back on, we can.
They can go when they're on only or something.
Yeah, they were able to take that and see if anybody was on the board.
Right.
Good.
But I think the operator will just tell you that somebody's on. I don't know whether they would announce who it was.
Yeah, so this is what it says, is that any person or organization desiring to be heard shall be afforded an opportunity to be heard at such hearing. So, I mean, if anyone here wants to say anything, I'm not
who
seeing.
was that on the phone?
Becky?
Becky, Bell.
And then do we need to state that there's no one in our meeting present, nobody present on the phone for any discussion on our,
Urban renewal.
Yeah.
Consultation.
okay. So,
And it can be watching the YouTube channel to make sure no one's chiming in on the live chat.
anybody on Facebook has any questions?
No.
All right, so I think we fulfilled our
Urban
requirement
renewal
for that then, right? Is that what you're-
Concentration.
I think so. All right.
I think we're good. Okay.
I'll just keep that in your hands just in case.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a copy of it, because I took it out of
Oh, okay,
the file. I can keep going.
okay. Okay, jail.
So.
Page one, are we on?
Yeah, and I can just give you the highlights, on, same as Bob, we obviously zeroed out all the 19 line items of the COVID to comply with the FEMA requirement. We increased revenues by $300,000, and we reduced expenses by $140,000 by doing the 019s. So we end up with about a real budget decrease of about 1.83%.
Okay, so your revenues went up to 300,000.
Yeah, we raised revenues under that federal prisoner contract to 300,000 more.
Okay, what was your other one?
And everything else are the 019s, the COVID related. They've all gone back to zero. Now,
Then again, that is in the,
it's all through the budget itself. There's COVID benefits areas, data processing, clothing supplies, numerous other things. But what I wanted to say to the board was there's a little bit of a risk here, because when she and the jail folks sat down to do this budget, they softened other line items by putting money into those COVID-related accounts. They have reduced those COVID line items to zero and have not gone back and increased the items that they went soft on. So there is just a little bit of a risk here. I think we're comfortable with
I
it.
mean, you think it's substantial or?
I don't think it's substantial, but I just,
If we're gonna even out, or?
we're gonna decrease a little bit.
You're basically just saying like costs that are, like, right now are covering our COVID because we can claim them on
Right.
COVID, but when.
But, so she would have like a regular line item for janitorial. She softened that a little bit because she put some money in COVID. We haven't gone back and reconciled that. So there is a little bit of a risk, but we all sat down and agreed that we can live with it. That's the highlights of the jail. There's a couple things I just want the board to be aware of. One is, obviously jail overtime is still a huge concern to us. The sheriff, and Andy, jump in when you want to here, but the sheriff has identified a area where we think we could have a major impact on that. We don't want to get we don't want to illuminate it too much because we have to talk to the association, the union, and some other folks. But we think going forward, we can have a fairly sizable impact on that overtime budget in the jail side. And I'd be happy to talk offline individually about some of the ideas we've got, but we need to vet that through some other people, the union, those kinds of folks. We've already identified it, we think we've gone that way. We've also reduced overtime a little bit just by some reclassifications, and Jana can talk a little bit about that. And we think we've made an impact on that. With that being said, we still think the jail is understaffed. That's one of the reasons this overtime budget is out of control. We have not asked for additional personnel this year, but I want the board to at least be open to the fact that we may come back next year and ask for a couple of positions in there. And I'm talking about, key turners, people that are actually working the jail, not administrative people. The other problem that we foresee is the nursing salary schedule. And I know we're doing the study and everything's coming back, but just going into the open market, we have seen our nursing wages are not keeping up with the metro area. And we just lost another nurse last week. Very difficult position to keep staffed. And we may want to come to the board, not for this budget year, but for next budget year, and talk about looking at those salary items. Jana, do you have anything?
Is that part of the COVID environment too?
No, that's just the regular healthcare.
We've been having that kind of turnover with the nurses out there? I guess.
Yeah, we really get, nurses seem to apply for the jail when they need a job quickly, and then it's like a jumping ground for something else. They're getting a solid paycheck, and then they go get a job at a hospital or something like that.
Well, it's not easy work anyway. I mean, you're working with inmates, so it's not.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna bring the
Yeah, the hours are a little bit different too because it's 11 to 11. A lot of times 12-hour shifts are like 6 to 6 or 7 to 7. So the 11 to 11 kind of takes up your whole day and your night. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were working other out, but that's how the hours are right now. We have a lot of difficulty hiring for that position, and we have a lot of turnover in that business.
Baker Tilly, part of this, did they look at the market rate on this one?
They have evaluated the market rate on that, yes.
Were they always 11 to 11, the nurses?
They're 12-hour shifts, yeah.
It's just one of those things, bad hours.
What do they do,
not
4
great pay,
days and then 3?
They're on the same shift schedule as the detention officers, right? As far as the actual hours they work? No, they're a little bit different because we have a gap in coverage from about 3 in the morning till about 6 or 7 in the morning. So they actually overlap a little bit during the 12. Sorry about that,
You're okay.
I'm losing track.
Are there any nursing or medical services that we provide that we don't have to?
No. Your argument is with the US Supreme Court. We pretty much have to provide any medical, dental issues that the inmates are required. And that was a Supreme Court decision from 30-some years ago.
And if anything outside of the basic care of the inmates which they provide, I mean, we're generally transporting them to separate offices for extended care essentially, so.
So, do you, I don't know if it's Andy or you, Jeff, are you getting, a monthly overtime report then from the jail then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we pull Tyler every month and look at it, and overtime has been exceeding even our budget authority for this year, but we will make up for it in the salary line items. So we have not come to you guys for any amendment on any of the three budgets because we're gonna be under on all three.
Okay. That overtime is only for, it's not for any of the admin, right? That's strictly.
There was some admin getting overtime, but we think we've solved that.
Okay.
What's the miscellaneous overtime?
That might have to be a Nina question.
Overtime wages, miscellaneous, it's, you show 30 in your budget.
That, and I'm not gonna say for sure, I'll get you an answer on it, but I think that might be what we're talking about on the admin side.
Okay. Now, the long-term
Medical,
treatment,
medical separate line item as well
Yeah.
for overtime.
Yeah.
Could be medical or administration, but we think
Okay.
it's probably, it might be medical actually.
bottom of page 3 is, what's the long-term treatment? Says out of the bottom,
How far up from the bottom?
It's on the very bottom.
very bottom of page 3.
That's,
Oh, wait, I'm not.
that's for inmates that have to go for, who knows whether it's dialysis or.
Extended health care.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the ones where we ship out essentially for advanced care outside of what our medical staff can provide.
Okay.
If that is a federal prisoner, does that get handled any different then? That's still us.
We do the transport for them now under the contract, but they pay for the medical expenses,
They
yes.
pay directly to the provider?
I would assume.
Okay.
We had a deal going for a while where we were trying to sign people up for Obamacare and trying to run some of the bills through that, and evidently there's been a huge issue on the federal level with that. And so that program has kind of come to a stop. But that was one way we thought we could kind of come back and get some of this health money back. But evidently at the Department of Justice level, there's been an issue with that, so we're waiting to hear.
Okay, Jeff, you look at the federal prisoners contract, the, 1 month ago, it was about 1.279 million. Now it's 1.519, it went up $240,000 in a month.
Yep.
And I know we can't
So-
use that as a benchmark or anything, but if we were to average that, you take that 240 times 12, you got 2.8 million. So I think we're okay with that 2.3, don't you?
I think we are. I just want you to think this down the road just a little bit and think about what happened in January. We've had a complete change of administration. And because I've asked the same question that you asked, and I was educated last week by Nina, we're probably gonna lose a lot of federal bed space now under the new administration. We're not gonna have the ICE detainers that we had. The marijuana, low-level stuff is gonna be taken outside the criminal justice system. And so we have some fear about where that federal contract could go over the next 12 months. And we won't know that probably for 6 or 8 months. But the word we're getting from the marshals and people like that is, to borrow an axiom, there's a new sheriff in town in DC, and we think that federal bed space might decrease. They said this happened in 2009 after that election, and so we're just a little nervous about that. That's why we only brought it down 300,000. Because if I follow your logic, it actually should go down more than that.
No, it should, I mean, the revenue should go up.
Or go up, I mean, yeah.
Are you comfortable with the 2.3? I don't wanna make it 2.3 and drop
I think we
down.
can live with it, and again, I think in the manning and the salaries and wages side of our budget, there's always some room because we're never fully staffed. And so I think we can make it up in that area if we get in trouble with that. But we're comfortable with that money, that amount.
Well, you know, we'll be back at this in December again to, this is 6 months to prepare.
We got in trouble several years ago when Stu kept putting in 2 million for that federal contract and it came in at 1. So
And that probably was about that era.
it was that, at that time, and some other things hit us. And,
Yeah,
So,
Tim,
yeah,
I
you
asked
be
the
careful.
same question you did, and Nina really took me to school on that. And when she showed it to me in the long-range form, we really have to be attuned to the change of philosophy at the DOJ level, because that really affects how many people we have laying in beds at night. And so, we just think there's gonna be a lot less ICE detainers, immigration detainers, a lot less federal prisoners on that level. We don't know how much. We're willing to live with this right now and see what happens.
So we can watch it for,
Absolutely, and we pull Tyler every month. We look at those percentages. For instance, on the sheriff's budget, we pulled Tyler on Monday, and 41.67% of the budget year remaining, we're at 48.12 left to spend. So we're good. And that's what we look at every month.
right, then you'll be giving money back then.
Yeah, we might give you some,
You're awesome, yeah.
we could give you some crumbs.
I like the way you think.
So like, hypothetically right now,
You like that, don't you?
how many,
build 2 miles.
Yeah, that'd be up to him, by the way.
Build some bike trails with that extra. Carryover.
hypothetically right now, how many federal prisoners would you have there now?
Out of the 270, what did we have this morning, 273 or something?
Yeah, for federal prisoners, I don't have the exact number. I can probably find out in like 2 minutes if you give me a.
Well, I just,
Ballpark would be 70,
okay.
80,
Oh, really?
yeah.
So they're pretty much,
They're more than you, when you get up there and walk around the pods, I was impressed. And again, Andy's worked out there, he knows better than I do, but I was amazed at how many federal guys were walking around when I go up there.
okay. Then what is the total that you're at out there right now? per se?
Total of inmates?
Yeah.
Or local or total?
Total.
273
I
this
think it
morning.
was this morning.
Right now, out there now?
Yeah.
And is that been staying pretty level?
Yeah, I mean, this summer we're upwards, we're over capacity. We're over 300 this summer, but then it's kind of slowed down here as of late, so.
Huh.
The judges are also attuned to the COVID thing and stuff, and so they're moving people pre-trial out if they can before they sit up at our place, so that's helped.
Cause I know the RCF and stuff, their numbers are way down and stuff, so I was just curious.
Are you guys ready for this one? This is the sheriff's side.
Yeah.
I got another question.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 2 on your overtime, 1 month ago, you were at 403,000. Now you're at 437, so your overtime went up about 34,000 in that month. You take that times 12, it puts you right around 400,000. Why was your overtime lower than the previous months for this? Any idea?
I can't answer that. I can circle it and get you an answer.
Okay. I mean, that would definitely be, if that trend were to stay the way it is right now at even 34,000 overtime, that's a lot of money. That would lower your expense $200,000. Thanks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That would be another way we could push it back, so. You got one?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sheriff's budget, again, another good news, down about 300,000 in total, mostly from the zeroing again of the 19s. We'll be over year to year about 0.002% from 21 to 22. I had 300,000 down as total reduction, but I don't know if that's correct. Because I'm sitting here looking at it, I don't remember. Now, there are two things on this budget that are, if you look at the bottom line on the last page, it looks like a substantial growth. And if you guys remember, you had us put the building addition and the new cars. So that building addition is 1.6.
The forfeiture money and then the $300,000
And,
bond.
yeah, and the 300,000 if you would bond the cars.
So, in our bond planning, we haven't, obviously, there's still a long way to go there yet, but in our planning that we've discussed about putting your vehicles in part of our bond discussions. To talk where that's at now, it's with our bonding agent, and they're basically putting this all together so we can see kind of high level of what that number that we're gonna back into is. But we did put 300,000 down as part of the sheriff's vehicles.
And that obviously would affect this bottom line on the back page.
Right, and so then your, as far as building expansion goes, that particular item would probably be more of a fund balance situation, so it wouldn't be part of bonding. So you guys would essentially put up X dollars in forfeiture dollars, and then we would put cash on hand for the remainder.
And that, yeah,
And
that
that's
forfeiture
another-
money is reflected in this, and that's why I say we're at 0.002, whatever increase. It doesn't show that on the bottom line on this page because both the building and the cars are still in there.
Oh, okay, so your forfeiture dollars are on this?
Right, right.
Okay.
What is the status on did they go out for bid?
It's still up to bid right now. I think we had some, did HGM or DLR request some kind of insurance?
Yeah, we have a bonding question that's up in the county attorney's office right now. We're waiting to get that answered.
Okay.
Something about verbiage on the insurance part of it, isn't it, or something, or?
So the sheriff promised to bring you some money back, and he brought you some money back. Bottom line.
What's your average vehicle running for your department?
Through, like, when we trade it out?
Yeah.
Or, we usually get about 130,000 out of them.
Okay, and then how much does the new one cost?
30, well, we get the government rates, I think around 30.
We do the state of Iowa bid, yeah.
But then you put all the stuff in, so on.
That's what's horribly
And then-
expensive.
And some, I mean,
Transfer some
understand,
of that
like, you
stuff
know,
over.
a lot of it transfers, but some of it doesn't, of course, when they start changing, you know, throughout the model years and stuff like that.
What do you generally get out of them when you go to sell them?
Well, I wish we had Lieutenant Winchell here, he does all of our card, you know, dealing, but we had just started doing the auction last year, and he says we're getting about another couple thousand, if not 3 on top of the vehicles.
Maybe 20 or 25% more for
Than we
every
were
car.
trading them in, you know, on vehicles. So what we've been doing, at least last year, we'll probably do it again this year, is actually take them to the auction, give them money out of them that goes back in the fund, instead of just trading them off through the dealership, so.
When you say the auction, he's taking them over to the Nebraska Auto Auction?
I believe so, that's where they are.
And are we doing roughly 5 a year? Or?
This year we have 8 coming. For some reason here over the last how many years, we got lopsided, like we're having to do 13 one year and then like 5 the next, so we're trying to get it equaled back out, but we have 8 coming this spring, so to try to get it more even. So we have a better budgeting idea.
You guys are looking at the Tahoe now, right?
Yeah, the 8 come in are all Tahoes, yep. They came back cheaper than everybody else, so.
Is that, are we running Tahoes for civil too then?
No, our civil deputies have older Ford Explorers and as well as court security, and we've got a few Durangos. in the mix of court security, but they're if you wanna call them the administrative vehicles, the operationally rated V6s instead of the Hemis, so.
You need 8 vehicles this year?
We have 8 coming this year. We've
Could
already.
you buy them for $37,000 a piece?
I think they're cheaper than that,
Yeah,
aren't
I
they?
don't know how much they were.
Now to outfit them is a lot more than
You
that.
say this, they're coming before June, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
this
were
and this-
purchased back
This budget.
Right, okay.
last summer. They're coming in this spring, so.
So you'll be able to back into that 300,000 number though with these 8 you got coming in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that included equipping them?
Mhm.
You buy them and equip them for $37,000.
And then, but he gets that, used car money that comes back into that account. And I'd have to talk to Becky exactly how that works, but they sell these cars at the auction and that money flows back in.
And there should be some revenue here somewhere.
Is she still on?
Are you on, Becky Bell?
Of course, we still pay Jones for the install, and some of the
Yeah,
vehicles
yeah,
might
yeah.
need new equipment, but the majority of them get transferred out of the.
Becky, how do they move that money from when he sells the used cars back into our budget?
Most likely, I did not run, I'm not logged into Tyler.
Okay.
There's a miscellaneous
Yeah,
sale of vehicles
revenue line. That's it.
in the sheriff's budget, that's 62,000 for the re-estimating.
But it's not, there's nothing in it for revenue this year.
I'll get you an answer on that, Tim.
Yeah, there's gotta be some revenue somewhere to pick up for the rest of those.
And I know Linda and I have talked about this, I just don't remember what she said, so I'll get you an answer.
Yeah, it's on page 1.
I don't think in the grand scheme though, it's gonna really, it should actually equal out.
I think it just fulfills that 300,000 to get our 8 cars
So
to the
even
bottom.
if you, Tim, if you take our math we just had there, I mean, let's just say it was 62,000 or what, yeah.
That's what, yeah.
So 362, and then you got that, divide that by what, 8? So you're talking 45,000 per vehicle, that includes purchase price and
4,500.
installing equipment, and we're not having to, not all the equipment has to be new, because we can reuse some of it.
Right.
So,
And you'll be shocked at what we buy these vehicles for. That state purchase is really a good deal.
it's actually not, I mean, I guess in my head, I was always figuring about 50,000, so if it's 45, that's not too far off where I was at in my head, so.
What's your average
I
life
think it's
on
just gonna
those
balance out,
vehicles?
it's a wash.
2 to 3 years, give or take.
When he-
3 years.
When he said 8 cars for 300,000, I said, I don't see how that can be possible.
Yeah, but now, yeah, once you add that, once you figure out what that would be, that should wash our numbers.
No, I'll just get you an answer on how that revenue flows back through. Because she explained it to me, but I apologize, I don't recall it.
The way I see it, Justin, on page 3 of the budget, where you see 160,000 on the
Yeah,
far
motor
right,
vehicle.
that, we'll be able to move that out.
Yeah, so that'll be 0, and then you have 62 added to your revenue line, or ish. Whatever, well, that's probably not accurate. Whatever you end up getting for your 8 vehicles.
Yeah.
What are they selling for, like 15,000 or something, or 12,000?
I'd have to ask Steve.
I don't think that, I mean, they're usually in the around 10, so.
Okay.
Because they have a pretty hard life essentially for the 3 years that we have them, so.
Then is it your, Justin, on page 6 and 9? The bottom, the last expense on the bottom, 140.
Yeah, so there's your 300,000. So we're down
That's, yeah, next year.
overall, and then you add the 60 in there, so you're basically, that's good, get money back.
So if the board decides to do that, we're gonna just take these right out of his budget. We won't let
Yeah,
it-
we're not gonna
we're
make,
not
so we
gonna
made a
let it-
mistake in the past where we left it and it got spent. So, not that, if you guys came back and said there's a realistic expense that you need to spend this on, that's a different conversation, but in the past, we overlooked it and then
Well,
it came back to bite us.
even if you approve this budget and leave the 300,000 in there, you don't have to appropriate it correct? At the
Well,
end
and
of June?
I think we're gonna bring a little money back to you July 1st, the way where our.
Right, but as far as if they decide to go ahead and bond for the cars, we can just not appropriate the money out of your budget.
No.
No, but if you remember 5 years ago.
You're taxing for it. You're taxing
All right,
for
well,
it.
What happened 5 years ago?
Well, 5 years
So
ago,
that's
we
not gonna
didn't, we didn't pull it out. And
right.
At the time, the sheriff at the time
Oh,
used it. And, anyway,
If you're good enough to bond it, we're not gonna spend it.
I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna take it out.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think the sheriff is too.
We're not gonna give you the chances.
I mean, he was looking at tricking out his car, but I don't think we'll say that. I'm just kidding.
So no revenue changes, none of that?
No, no revenue changes. Now, if you wanna talk about county contracts at some point, I have the same idea with that I did with the towers. You know, you guys talked about, you went back and hit them for 3% for how many years, and of course, you just came from that world. I think we should put that on CPI and just, every town, every place would know every year, the consumer price index went up 1.9%, that's how much this contract's going up. But that's a conversation for another day.
So they're not going up this year?
This is the
This is the last year,
last
isn't it?
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they should automatically go up 3%.
this budget.
Not automatically, Tim.
This is the last year of the agreement.
You had 3 years on that automatic 3% every year. This is the last year of it. We need to start talking to people.
This budget year we're working on right now, or the one we're
From
in?
what I understand, July of 21 is when our 3-year, or our 3% is done, so.
It's a nice increase in it. For them. For them.
That's probably something that the board and the sheriff need to get on, set up a meeting for,
With the CPI.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, we met out at Oakland with all the mayors, and you were out there then. And we made that agreement at the time.
As far as I knew, prior toward that, it had been many years before
Right,
that was ever effective, so.
Stale, yeah.
So what you're recommending,
Well, I just throwing it out there. I
No,
just
no,
think
I-
it's
you're
very
on.
fair
no.
for both the cities and us to say, we put it on a CPI and every year they get the consumer price index at the beginning of the year, like Social Security and everybody else does. And they know that's how much that contract goes up that year. And if we have great years, it goes up a little bit. If we have bad years, it doesn't go up very much.
Yeah.
Well, it's either whatever CPI, COLA, whatever we're gonna use. But I think you have, there's two sides of it, and I've seen it bite me in the ass on both sides. Not less than 0,
Right.
and then not more than 3.
Well, we're always opposite.
So,
We're always, I don't wanna call it deficit, but I mean, it's always a loss. I mean, it's always,
right,
we're never, I mean, I don't know, we're ever gonna get to equal on that, you know?
No, and I agree, and I remember when this whole thing came up how many years ago? When Jeff first talked about it, whatever, but one of the things that the CPI makes some sense to me is it's a continuing contract and we don't ever go back and revisit this. And it just, there's no more heartache meetings, there's no more friction between boards of government. We just all know exactly where we stand from here on out. Again, it's just an idea.
No, I kinda like that too.
That's a good point.
you know,
And the budget.
Yeah, because we do this, we kick this can down the road again, if we let it go, let's say this next year, and then do another 3-year contract, or even do a 3-year contract. Come July, here we are again in 3 years having to do the same thing, so it's just.
well, if you do it on a CPI, you're gonna lose, you're gonna get further and further behind. You know, if the CPI is 1%, do you think your deputies are gonna take a 1% raise?
I mean,
Probably not, right?
historically, that's what it's supposed to be. You know, the whole world should be at about that rate every year, but again, that's not, I don't have control over that.
I think we should do some discussion outside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just throw it out there for an idea and for you guys to chew on it for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we get pressure on the other side too, where
well, sooner we gotta do that, I guess, soon, you know, probably
Yeah, I'll reach out to you.
April timeframe, or get something set up where we can get them all in one room, and then if the situation would come up again, and just be thinking, so Avoca steps out again, then what's their cost when they come back in, you know? And that type of thing, so. Okay, any other discussion?
Did you get those changes, Becky?
We'll get you an answer on those two questions.
Thanks for going back and looking at that.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You bet.
See you guys.
At some point. At some point, it's gonna be very soon.
Yeah.
We need to get on that whiteboard and just write. What I'd like to do is for each department and then just color coordinate where the red and yellow are under, we're, you know, in the same budget. And then we can also break that down by the general jet stuff.
Okay, Matt Wyatt,
So, you know,
update on governor's COVID guidelines and restrictions, and I guess anything related to COVID. There's a lot of COVID.
It's everywhere.
Pardon?
So Chairman Bell asked me to come up and discuss with the board, part of the governor's new proclamation on, measures for COVID-19. And I take it more or less kind of specifically to section 2 is kind of what we're looking at discussing here today, which in section 2, number A, it says, I strongly encourage all businesses and other employers remaining open with in-person operations to take reasonable measures under the circumstances of each establishment to ensure the health of employees, patrons, members of the public, including social distancing practice, increased hygiene practices, and other public health measures to reduce the risk of COVID-19 consistent with the guidance issued by Iowa Department of Public Health. Section B, this section shall not be the basis for closing or taking other enforcement actions against a business or employer absence of any additional specific order or directive of Iowa Department of Public Health. And so when they discuss in there on what we're doing here at a county building wise, on all of our county buildings by requiring face coverings in those currently right now, that is still a best practice mitigation method for what we're up against with COVID-19. I know that, you know, there's a lot of members of the public, there's a lot of employees, and everybody is, they're a little COVID wary at the time, pandemic fatigue and everything else that's setting in, and our numbers have gone down, but what we've seen with our numbers going down is our testing has gone down as well. And that really did coincide a lot with the elimination of the Employee Protection Act, which had employers paying people for the 2 weeks that they needed to quarantine. And I don't believe that it necessarily goes in line with that our virus activity is down in our county. I think it has more to do with people just can't afford to necessarily be off work for that period of time, so they're not going and getting tested like they should. If those things are in essence happening, then it is for sure one of those things where you don't necessarily want to let up on asking members of the public to put on a face mask when they come into the county courthouse or any other county building to do business right now. We get a little bit further along in our vaccine efforts, and this goes out for a little while, you know, a little bit further. It would be a time then where we could kind of come back and discuss, hey, is it something where we could stop the temperature checks at the door? Can we stop having people wear face coverings as they come in? Especially, you know, even at times like this where we're sitting in a room, there's been a lot of people projecting their voices. It's just good practice to have face coverings on at those times, to have our hand sanitizer stations out there, have the temperature checks at the door. You know, the board did, I think, a really good thing by extending out for those county employees that part to where, you know, they can still go down and get tested, still have that leave time. If they do test positive for the virus, that encourages good health practices on them to continue those testing things. But that's probably kind of the biggest thing is in what she's saying, you know, they never really did put out what everybody wanted to term at the time was a mask mandate. She put out at the time just those public health measures and saying that, you know, if you're gonna go into the buildings, we want you to wear those face coverings, and if you can't, social distance from people. Really, this is a continuation of what she's already been saying, other than the fact law enforcement is not charged with going down to that place and ensuring that people are wearing face coverings. It's a personal responsibility thing, it's a doing what's best for your community part of it, and I would encourage Potawatomi County, you know, as an entity to continue those methods to set the standards for other businesses in our area.
You know, and this is my own personal opinion, I think the governor did us a disservice, to be honest with you, with the people of businesses, depending on their type of business, pitting customers potentially against customers or businesses against businesses, you know. And the people already kind of angst up and stuff already over it. And I mean, I think probably here in the Midwest, we're, I guess, a little more civil, I think, than probably some other places, but, you know, in a retail service establishment, I just see where it could be, you know, some person saying, well, I don't, you know, it's just, and you can't really involve the law enforcement now over the mask thing that appears, so I just, but the recommendations from you and the State Department of Public Health is to continue on with what we have been doing.
That would be our recommendation from Potawatomi County Public Health, is that we continue on where we're at right now.
Okay.
I guess as far as the sunset on this, have you thought through that yet? I mean, when we put the mask mandate in place, I mean, there was obviously a lot of frustration that happened from members of the public, and while, you know, I'll leave that issue to die where it did, but I guess my point now is where do we see the sunset with this being? You know, at what point do you say, okay, no longer wearing these masks? Is it when all of our employees are vaccinated at the courthouse? Or is it, where do you see the end of this?
That's a long, to me, it's a long game picture on that part of it. It's hard to say from the different recommendations. I mean, we all sit in the meetings and hear, even after you get vaccinated, they want you to keep wearing your face covering. They want you to still keep up with all those different public health mitigation methods that they put in there. So when you try to discuss through those scenarios, does vaccination play a big role in these things being dropped down? Is it gonna be when we hit that herd immunity piece of it? I think this was definitely, like, as Scott said, I think it was a little bit of disservice to us here at a local level, because, you know, earlier last week they announced that now we have the UK variant showing up in eastern Iowa. We have seen throughout this whole event, once it shows up in eastern Iowa, it's a matter of about a month before it's in western Iowa. So it's gonna come across the state, it's gonna come into our area, and while even with the vaccine shortage order, they had us concentrating on dueling groups of people, pitting people against one another on whether or not they could get the vaccine, when theoretically, if you look at who we should have been concentrating on, it's a 65 and older population. Let us concentrate on that population. Those are the ones that are, you know, seeing the worst of what this virus is, and then switch back over to the tier groups. So the things that come from the state aren't necessarily discussed down through anybody at a local level. It pops out there, but no, I haven't necessarily thought through the whole end game of this, because it's just, right now we're just fighting one battle after another on trying to make sure we get as many people vaccinated as we can.
Matt, if I can ask you a couple of questions. What is the governor's mask recommendation right now in the state of Iowa?
The specific to mask recommendations is to follow the guidance from Iowa Department of Public Health.
And what does Iowa Department of Public Health have to say about wearing a mask?
Iowa Department of Public Health is if you cannot maintain social distance or you're gonna be in a tight spot, that you should wear a face covering.
So she didn't really request guidance from Iowa Department of Public Health when she made some of those statements? Is that correct? I mean, that's what you hear in the news.
That's what so I know as much as you all do on that part. That's what I heard in the news, that she did not request any information from Iowa Department of Public Health before this came out.
And she's not mandated to though, I mean, she's the governor, so I mean.
If she lifted the mask requirement, can Potawatomi County still have a mask requirement in our government buildings?
When I read through the proclamation, I don't feel as though she lifted a mask requirement. What she did was she lifted the enforcement from police, and, you know, she had charged the law enforcement to enforce that part of it. What this piece of it is saying now is that you're still supposed to follow all those procedures. It's just up to the business owners or those entities to enforce it within their establishment.
So does that, you think, that was my question, I guess last weekend down there at the clinic was, on public buildings, do we, and I don't know if that's a legal question we need to pose upstairs, that we can still require that, you know, in public buildings, they have to, they're coming in, they have to be wearing a mask, or?
I just wanna make sure we're.
Right, no, I agree.
Everything's right.
I agree.
Difference on what we had done at the time, when Potawatomi County acted and asked people to wear face coverings when they came into public buildings, is that you saw other board of supervisors, you saw other city councils at the time adopting a mask ordinance that had enforcement behind it within their communities. And but that extended beyond the reach of just a county courthouse or county buildings. They were saying they wanted it in all public buildings and businesses around in those areas. What we did at the time was just, we still have, is just stuck to county buildings. And I think that sets a good example for the community. You know, the county's still asking that you do it in the courthouse or any of the other county buildings that you go into. And we would ask that the other businesses, you know, maintain the same.
A lot of private businesses still have the mandate. Most of them do.
Yeah,
I don't
Their own
know.
individual business.
The hard part is a business can do it anyway. I mean, a business
Correct.
can say you need to do that if you're gonna shop here. It's private. So, I mean, I think that's where we just need to make sure that, you know, I see where you're going with this, is like, do we have that authority? I'm okay with the way it is, but I'm just saying, as far as, I don't wanna overstep.
We didn't make a mask mandate, we made a mask requirement, which is.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, which we had authority to do as I guess you can, home rule, I mean, I guess you could argue that, but, we can only do it for the buildings and properties that we own specifically, so.
So what do you think,
Or
Matt?
rent. Can we do it?
Yeah,
Because we're doing the mask
anywhere we provide service.
requirement down at the
It's anywhere that we provide.
injection site,
Anywhere we provide a
Yeah.
common service.
vaccine site.
They require the owners of the MAC.
Okay.
City does, so.
Would April work? Do you think we can safely come to the point where we can remove the mask requirement in April?
No.
May?
I mean, I think we're gonna be running vaccine efforts all through this year.
So you're talking 2022?
You know, all I can say right now is that I think we're gonna be running vaccine efforts all through this year in order to reach a comfortable point within our community.
I don't like 2022.
Well, I mean, I feel a lot more comfortable if all of our employees in this courthouse are vaccinated. I know that's not like the end all be all, and I know it's still possible people can get it, it's like the flu. But I would feel a lot more comfortable lifting something like that. when we first put this in place, you know, and we can go back to those conversations, I mean, we had departments that were on the verge of having to close their doors because
Correct.
half their staff, or more than half, had the virus. So if we get to the point where they're all vaccinated, you know, the only difference at this point is we've now taken care of our employees. So if we lifted the mask mandate, we're not necessarily protecting the public. But then that gets into the whole debate of whether or not that's our job. And then I'm not taking a side, I'm just saying that that's.
The numbers will tell. Are you saying a mass vaccination mandate for the employees in the courthouse?
No, I'm
No.
saying, I'm
Okay.
saying that if every employee in this courthouse was vaccinated, I would feel a lot more comfortable saying, let's lift this mask mandate, or requirement, I'm sorry, for the courthouse. Because when we made the decision to do this, it was because we had so many employees that had contracted COVID, and we also made the comment that we wanted to protect the public when they came in the door. So I'm saying that if we lifted it, we're no longer protecting the public, but we have already vaccinated our employees, so we protected them.
It's a two-way
So, I mean,
deal.
We're damned either way. I mean, at the end, no matter what we decide to do, if we decide to lift it, whether we keep it, I mean, this board's gonna get, you know, court of public opinion can be good or bad sometimes.
Right, but we're trying to protect both the citizens as well as the employees. And I think what I've seen is pretty much no matter what the institution is, whether it's a rest home, teachers, hospitals, whatever, you don't, unless you guys got some newer or some other data, it's somewhere in maybe 60% of the people are doing it, are getting vaccinated. You know, it's not, everybody's not getting vaccinated. I mean, just like, I don't know what the percentage of the flu shot is, but I think it's probably greater than that, because I think they said the flu shot percentage went down. I mean, is that not accurate?
No, you're right. So when we surveyed the initial tiers, we'll just like phase 1A, we had our nurses surveying, you know, what were your total employee numbers, how many employees want to get vaccinated, and then you take that to the numbers. So you had approximately, in those different organizations, you about had 80% of the people who said, yes, I want to get vaccinated. Out of that, you had 75% sign up for an appointment when offered an appointment. And then you have the percentage of people that don't show up for their appointment even though they signed up for an appointment. So yeah, you're probably right around 60% of the organizations. And I mean, because you have a probably 20% number of people who say, yeah, I'll take a vaccine, but when it actually comes time for it, they back out and don't do it, or for whatever reason.
What was the percentage the other day, a Saturday? What was the percentage of appointments? Do you know?
I think we probably had about 10% not show up. 150, right?
Yeah, it was around 10, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we had 150 people not show up for their appointments.
Matt, do you have any plans to make ask if county employees want to sign up for the vaccination?
Not at this time, because they're not within the tier groups. And I mean, those ones that are 65 and older, yes, they'll have their opportunity to. But other than that, the county employees who are in the tier groups, like the law enforcement, we took care of those. The corrections are all the way at the bottom of it. So the jail detention officers won't actually get theirs until towards the end of phase 1B. And, you know, we did the nursing staff from out at the jail. Our nursing staff's been done. But once we have to go through those priority groups and the 65 and older groups. Right now, our goal is to hopefully kind of switch over and do some 65 and olders. So that way we can kind of help out with the pharmacies who are struggling with making their appointments. We're all struggling with the amount of vaccine that we're getting. But tomorrow afternoon, we should have some more to announce on that part of it.
So at one point, we had 60 employees that were out with COVID. Not all had it. Some were quarantining because a family member did. And now, as of our last meeting, I think it was last Tuesday, we had 3 or 4 that were out with COVID, or quarantining for COVID. Do you think the mask requirement that the board put on played a part in getting those numbers down?
It did, and you see it as well in the schools. The schools were probably the first to kind of show everybody the benefit of what happens when everybody starts the universal use of face coverings. We went from 2 different school districts that had to really shut down for 2 weeks to the other school districts who'd had it implemented. Their quarantine numbers dropped off significantly. The spread, we had no cases that you could trace back to a spread within a facility that had happened. So there was all those steps that led up to that. You know, through the baseball season, we learned a lot, and then as it switched, that baseball season transitioned into going back to school. All of those different things played a part, but the mask use was one of the biggest things that you see affected. Because if we're sitting in a group like this, and Jake and I are having a meeting, he comes back tomorrow, and we sat here for half an hour having this meeting with our face coverings on. He phones in tomorrow and he says, hey, I just tested positive for COVID-19. And so then back to me, without our face coverings, I'm out for 2 weeks quarantining. Because we were both wearing face coverings while we sat there and had that meeting, I don't have to quarantine. So I get to stay on and continue working.
I'm sure you're aware, but there was a workforce call Thursday of last week, and both school districts, well, I should say, there were 2 school districts, Lewis Central and Council Bluffs, on that call as well. And combined COVID cases between those 2 school districts was 8, which is very, very low. So I think things are working.
We just don't want to quit them too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, we just need to make sure that this board is not overstepping our legal authority. That's all I care. I shouldn't say all I care, but I mean, I do believe they're working, and I do believe that it's had a huge impact on keeping our numbers down. I just, at the same note, I don't want to do something where we're putting ourselves in any kind of legal hot water. So I mean, if the way you're reading this and the way you see this is that we still have the authority to keep this in place, then, you know, I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that we're not overstepping it.
Yeah, I
If
think
she's
that's-
leaving it up to us, I mean, then I don't see any, like I said, I'd feel more comfortable lifting it once everyone was vaccinated, and we're not even close to that, so.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'll go on record that you, done a very good job Saturday. It was well oiled, people really complimented everybody.
That's thanks to everybody
Yeah,
back
I
here.
know, you guys, people were really excited about how well it worked. Just want you to know you've done a good job.
Okay. I just wanted everybody to get kind of comfortable with where we're at, where we're going. It's just the biggest hurdles are getting the vaccine, so.
I guess while you're here, and I just want to make this kind of your warno, but I'd like to see if possible, we could have Matt and the planning office come back and give us some updates on the flooding stuff at some point. Kind of
Okay.
similar fashion, but,
Well, we need to get Matt.
I mean, not right now, but I mean, it'd just be nice to kind of get a big picture idea of what we got going on. I've been getting a lot of questions from residents that have been wanting to
I missed what you said, I'm sorry.
flood.
Oh, the flood.
I want an update.
Yeah.
Well, we need to get Matt and John back in here.
Yeah.
Rasmussen.
The development stuff.
Oh, talk about some roads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John sent us some information yesterday.
Yeah,
so-
I read through some of that, and I didn't quite.
Yeah, that's why I was.
He just started yeah, I don't know, he didn't really give us a good
Well, that's
introduction
what
what
we
he was
need to
talking
run
about.
run some scenarios and see what
Right.
that looks like.
Yeah, I can have Pam put on an agenda item for next week to give an update on I'll have Pam put an agenda item for next week to discuss the flood update on kind of where we're at with the state and with the feds.
Okay. Yeah, cause okay.
Okay.
There's some good things been happening, so.
Well, we may need to know for bonding opportunities and things too, that's why I want an update, so.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, appreciate everything you're doing.
Yes, if you hear something, I guess weird out there, let us know. I mean, we're gonna stick with where we're at from what I hear from the board.
we'll have an announcement to make tomorrow on vaccine, to help out with the public. We'll do that tomorrow afternoon, and I'll make sure that you all have it, so that way the ones who have social media can kind of put it out there on that part of it. They did do a HON alert came in, I think it was after the planning commission last night, I saw it. And it was about the cadence on as far as why Iowa seems to be the bottom of the states for vaccine allocations. And it has to do with the way the state of Iowa was ordering the vaccine. I can forward that to you all so you can see that and kind of make sense of it yourself. It also changes the cadence at which they're going to allot us vaccine a little bit. But, apparently the state was ordering in the end of the day, the state was ordering their vaccine late. All the rest of the states were ordering it before us. So therefore it appeared we were behind. And so whether that's gonna lead to increased allocations is yet to be seen, but hopefully it does.
Okay, just real quick on that note, we were ordering it late, the state. I mean, do you have any inclination who orders it? Is it the Department of Public Health? Is it the governor?
I don't know exactly who places that order from the state of Iowa to the federal government.
And we don't actually, I guess as a county, we don't actually place an order either.
We're not allowed to place an order. All that we do is we get an alert when the state says this is how much vaccine you are gonna get.
You're gonna receive.
Yeah, so we get an email that pops up and our phones ring, it says you have received a HON alert, that's the Iowa Health Alert Network. It says, on there it says vaccine allotment prime dose, or it says vaccine allotment boost dose. It doesn't say how much. You have to log in then to the system. And then in our system, it says Pottawatomie County allocations, and it gives a number and what type of vaccine it is. That's all that we get to see. Now, we are constantly emailing back up, telling them, we will take any amount of leftover doses that anybody has. If somebody has vaccine that they're saying they don't want, send it to us. And they did that one time, they found 700 doses that they magically sent to us, and we just keep pushing to say, we're ready for more, give us more, but they say that they got their own metric system on how and when it gets dosed out, but.
Well, I think that's the message that needs to go out there, that we don't order, we just get what's pushed or allocated toward us.
Correct.
I mean, we'd be willing to take more if we could get more.
Matt, how is the pharmacy program working? Is it working good?
It's getting better. Hy-Vee, it sounds like, has their website figured out a little bit where it's simpler, but there's just not a lot of appointments available because they don't have much vaccine. Super Saver does a phone list. They're working down their list and adding more to their list. Connections Area Agency on Aging is jumping in to help out. They're starting a piece to help out with people who don't have computer access. Walgreens website, from my understanding, is still a disaster, but people have been able to get appointments through them, and they are dispensing out vaccine. Walmart is dispensing out vaccine, and they're picking up the pace at which they are doing that. So Lehan Pharmacy is doing really good. Union Pharmacy is doing really good. I mean, they're all there doing their part. It's just a matter of everybody wants to be on everybody's list instead of just working with, we've tried to really push hard on the message, just work with the pharmacy you normally work with. Well, they want to be on Walgreens list, but they want to be on Super Savers list, they want to be on Hy-Vee's list. And it's like, if everybody would branch out into just the place they work with, it would really help the system out. It's just an overloading of the system by trying to be, I got on KETV just a little bit because they kept pushing the story that there's so much confusion out there. There's confusion out there. And I'm like, you ask me at the end of every interview, is there something more that you want me to say? And I've told you the same thing every time. And that is just to have them work with just their pharmacy that they do. And the people that they're putting on there are saying, well, I don't know what to do. I'm on this list, but I don't know, I'm gonna call every day. And it's like, no, you're on a list. You don't have to call every day. That's the point of, you're there. You got your appointment set up, so.
So what's your plan is there a plan in place to do a separate clinic for just that age group?
That's what we're gonna announce tomorrow.
Okay. I'll leave it alone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for what you're doing.
like your whole crew
They were all right behind you.
These are, this is the brains of the operation right there, see?
The big question is, are you buying them lunch now?
I got some peanut butter sandwiches. See ya.
Okay, man.
Okay, Jenna, the Limerick, Human Resource Director, discussion and or decision on how to receive the Baker Tilly final report. Do we want, the decision is either they can come or we get it sent to us, or, we do it through Zoom or other local, just the two options, or?
Yeah, it's really, do you want a report or do you want them to present you something? And if you want them to present you something, most likely it would be on Zoom. I mean, some of them are in Minnesota, some of them are in Florida. So based on COVID, I don't think they would all fly here. I mean, we could ask, but I don't know. So really, do you want them to present something or do you just want a physical report?
Honestly, I want a report.
Yeah, I do too.
I can see the numbers and deal with it, I don't know. The last time they came and did that, I just got mad and left, so.
That's, I think the report is the best way for the board to receive it.
I do too.
Okay.
Do you need to vote on that?
Yeah, I guess you do now.
No?
No.
It says discussion decision.
Yeah, it does. It says discussion
Well,
and
we just,
decision.
I think it's just nod that we want the report.
Okay.
No formal action taken.
Yep.
Got it.
Report.
You know,
That was the easiest thing all day.
Chairman Belt, I'll make a motion that, we go into closed session.
You gotta do the salary actions first, don't we?
Well,
Under Iowa
let's just
Code
receive and file.
20.17, parent 3, collective bargaining on and labor negotiations.
I've got a motion,
I'll second.
okay, by Supervisor Wickman, second by Supervisor Shea. Roll call?
Chairman Bell.
Aye.
Supervisor Philby. Wickman.
Aye.
Schultz. And Shea.
Aye.
Okay, now you can shut her down.
The vote is on,
Yeah.
Mr. Hauser.
I will try to remember
Becky's
that.
still on there?